The Return to Freddy's. The best way to start this iceberg off is to go over where the series started. The Return to Freddy's was released on the 23rd of December 2014. Unlike the following games, this one was made up almost entirely of reused assets. It started off as an AU of FNAF 1 and 2 before evolving into something original. These days it is often considered to be one of the worst FNAF fan games ever made. However, it was the game that started the FNAF fan game trend. While Five Nights at Treasure Island was the first popular FNAF fan game, The Return to Freddy's proved that easy to make low quality FNAF fan games can become very popular, and it spawned a whole generation of FNAF fan games. It was originally noted for blending elements from both FNAF 1 and 2. It added an unused mechanism from FNAF 2, the toxic meter, which stops you from being able to wear the mask the whole time. Every animatronic does the same thing, you have to wear the mask. The game had 7 nights, with the final night being a custom night. The Return to Freddy's 2. With a game as successful as The Return to Freddy's, it's only fitting that a sequel was made. It was released on the 7th of March 2015. This game was made up of original assets this time, although there were still a few reused ones. The gameplay is very similar to FNAF 2, having a hallway in front of you and a mask. This game had more mechanisms than the first game, some of them weren't in FNAF 2. You have to charge up the power, which acts as a second music box mechanic. You also have audio, which you can play to lure one of the animatronics away from you. The game wasn't nearly as popular as its predecessor, but those who played it thought it was about as good as the first game. The Return to Freddy's 3. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 was originally going to be the final installment of the FNAF series. Many FNAF fan games which had a sequel wanted to finish the series off as a trilogy, and one of those FNAF fan games was The Return to Freddy's. The Return to Freddy's 3 was released on the 25th of April 2015. When it came out, it was considered by far the best in the series. Despite looking similar to FNAF 3, it actually had a lot of differences. The game played out very differently, with you having to shut doors in the cameras to keep the animatronics out. You also had a hallway in front of you where an animatronic can appear. If an animatronic appears, you have to corrupt the signal on the maintenance panel. The game was considered one of the best FNAF fan games when it came out, and was a good send-off to the series. Except for The Return to Freddy's 4. 2 days after the release of The Return to Freddy's 3, FNAF 4 was announced. Then not long after, The Return to Freddy's 4 was announced. It was released on the 19th of May 2015. The game had a unique office setup, with the cameras being on the wall. You have to charge up the power in your office. You have 2 ways to stop the animatronics. The locker, which acts like the mask, and the steam, which is activated by pulling a lever in the office. The Return to Freddy's 4 is one of the most copied FNAF fan games of all time, with clones of the game littering GameJot during 2015. It was perhaps the most influential FNAF fan game of 2015, and like its predecessor, it was considered one of the best FNAF fan games when it came out. The Return to Freddy's 5. With the series being on top of the FNAF fan game scene, there would be a 5th installment. The game began development in May of 2015. This game was going to change the world of FNAF fan games. It was conceptually ahead of FNAF itself and was anticipated to be the best FNAF fan game ever released. This game looked too good to be true, and that unfortunately turned out to be the case. The Return to Freddy's 5 was cancelled after spending a year in development hell. Several demos and teasers were released. TRTF. TRTF is an acronym for The Return to Freddy's. It is simply an abbreviated term because it's easier than saying The Return to Freddy's, and I'll be calling it that a lot throughout this video. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 fan made. The first TRTF game was originally a fan-made Five Nights at Freddy's 3. While most knew it was clearly a fan-made game, some were actually deceived into believing it was the official FNAF 3. Scott Corvon demanded that the game's title was changed. So on the 5th of January 2015, the game was renamed to The Return to Freddy's, which is what is most remembered as today. Tyler Ahlstrom. Tyler Ahlstrom was the creator of the Return to Freddy series, which is his best known work. He went under many names during the time he was making the TRTF games. Despite creating what was once the biggest FNAF fan game series, he is not remembered too fondly by the FNAF community due to many controversies. The Dreadful Truth. The Dreadful Truth is a virtual novel released on the 1st of December 2016. The novel covered the full story of TRTF. It was a final installment of the TRTF lore, meaning it is the definitive story of the series. This also took the lore of 3 cancelled games, one being TRTF 5. The novel is fairly short, only having 9 chapters. Lockjaw. Lockjaw is a humanoid animatronic who is a mascot of the TRTF series. He first appeared in TRTF 2 as a hallucination and in death minigames. In TRTF 3 and 4 he became an active enemy. His design was based off Tyler's OC at the time. He also went under the name Frank Burt in later installments, which was his original name in the lore. He had many different designs throughout the series as Tyler got better at modelling. Kitty Fazcat. Kitty Fazcat is the second main animatronic behind Lockjaw. She's a pink cat animatronic who first appeared in TRTF 2 and would become a prominent character for the rest of the series. She was the OC of Tyler's friend at the time, who later became his girlfriend. Sugar. Sugar is a blue cat animatronic who is the most infamous character in the TRTF series. When she appeared in TRTF 1, she was made up of stolen renders of Emil Mako's Candy the Cat. Keep in mind, TRTF 1 came out 7 months before the first Five Nights at Candy's game, so some thought that the animatronic was original to the game. Emil Mako demanded that Tyler removed Sugar from the game, in which she was. Sugar did later appear in TRTF 2 as an original model, which Emil Mako did not mind. Sugar became irrelevant after TRTF 2, only appearing in future games as decorations in the minigames. FNAF animatronics. There are a lot of FNAF animatronics present in the TRTF series. The most consistent ones are Freddy and Bonnie, who appear in all the games. Chica and Foxy were also important characters, but they were absent from TRTF 4. The puppet is a key character lore-wise, but only appears as an enemy in TRTF 1 and 2 and in the minigames of TRTF 3 and 4. Golden Freddy also appears in all the games, but only serves as an Easter egg in TRTF 2, 3 and 4. There's also Spring Bonnie, who mostly appears in minigames. Vigo. Vigo is a green snake animatronic who originates from TRTF. Despite only appearing in the 3rd game, he has become a fan favourite character. Tortured animatronics. In TRTF 5, there was going to be tortured variants of most animatronics who appeared in the TRTF series, as well as some original animatronics. The tortured animatronics in the lore are referred to as torture suits. These suits are powered by blood and were used to torture and kill people. BFP. BFP is an important character in the TRTF series. He was one of the many dead children in the series. His character was rewritten a lot as the series expanded. He made an appearance in every TRTF game in the minigames. He was depicted as being sad, often crying in the minigames. He was once considered the protagonist of the series, but was reduced to a less important role in The Dreadful Truth. Super Cancer. Super Cancer is the name of a deadly virus mentioned in The Dreadful Truth. I'll talk more about this when discussing the lore of the novel later on. The reason why it's this high up is because it became a meme within the FNAF community. This is of course because of its ridiculous name, especially when in the story it's not even a form of cancer. Alison Barian. Alison Barian is the main antagonist of the TRTF series. He never actually made an appearance in any of the finished games. He is a key character in The Dreadful Truth and would have been the main antagonist of TRTF 5. Carson. Carson is considered the protagonist of the TRTF series, however he doesn't show up until the final chapter of The Dreadful Truth, and wasn't introduced until TRTF 5, where he would have played as him. He is an investigator who is trying to kill Allison to put an end to his evil deeds. Blake. Blake is a night guard who you play as in both TRTF 3 and 4, however though he doesn't have much importance to the story. Vincent. Vincent was the main antagonist of the series before Allison was introduced. He appears in all the games. He was originally known as Fritz Smith in the first game. He was the series' equivalent of William Afton, as he was a child killer who appeared as a purple guy in the minigames. He was also the phone guy in TRTF 1 and 2. Despite his importance of the games, in The Dreadful Truth he was reduced to a supporting character who doesn't actually kill anyone. Gron Takaliken. Gron Takaliken is perhaps the most well-known human character in the TRTF series. Before his name was revealed, he was commonly referred to as the Jester or the Green Guy. He appeared in TRTF 3 and 4. He would later become one of the main characters in TRTF 5 and The Dreadful Truth. At one point he was a father of BFP, but this plot point was later retconned. He has 2 children and is also the grandfather of Carson. He is also a child killer. Gron's death. In the Night 5 minigame in TRTF 4 you play as Vincent. You walk in on Gron torturing BFP. Gron then walks over and slips over an unspecified object. He then falls into a torture suit and dies. This has become another meme amongst the FNAF community, with many believing that Gron slipped over a bar of soap. However, it was never actually said what the object he slipped on was. This was later retconned in The Dreadful Truth. The Return to Freddy's Frankberts. The Return to Freddy's Frankberts, commonly referred to as just Frankberts, was one of the other cancelled TRTF games. It began development in November 2015. It was going to serve as a prequel to TRTF 5. The game was cancelled early on in development and there was never any release of the game. Razzler. Razzler is the last cancelled TRTF game that is still considered canon. Almost everything we know about the game is from The Dreadful Truth. It was going to be the first game in chronological order. Razzler is the name of the antidote for super cancer. Frankfurt. This entry is referring to the setting of TRTF Frankfurt. This is the most infamous location in the series. That's because it's actually a strip club, which had stripper animatronics. Two were variations of Frankfurt and Kitty Fazcat. It was opened by Allison on an unknown date. The location appeared in Chapter 9 of The Dreadful Truth. Kitty Fazcat. As said earlier, Kitty Fazcat was the OC of Tyler's girlfriend, who went under the name Kitty Fazcat. She asked Tyler to model the OC, and Tyler decided to put the character in TRTF 2. They broke up in August 2016. Kitty Fazcat now goes under a different name and wants to be anonymous from the TRTF community due to harassment that she got. This is public information, but I won't be disclosing a current username or a real name out of respect for her privacy. Krea Studios. Krea Studios is a media company co-founded by Tyler Ahlstrom in 2018. They mainly make video games, comics, and artwork. They've had involvement in later TRTF installments, and some games carried over elements from TRTF. As of right now, none of their games have been released. BFP is a self-insert. Tyler formerly went under the username BFP Films 424, and the character BFP was also based off Tyler's OC at the time, same as Lockjaw. This wasn't just a visual insert, but also a character insert. BFP was frequently sad is a reference to how Tyler was depressed during the development of most of TRTF games. The Return to Freddy's Desolation. The Return to Freddy's Desolation is a TRTF fan game made by Brime. It was released on the 16th of November 2019. This game had involvement from Krea Studios and is considered an official installment, however though it's not canon to the previous TRTF games. This game was based off TRTF 5 and is probably the closest we have to an official remake of the game. There's 3 levels which are referred to as chapters, each level having something different. The game was a huge flop, going unnoticed outside of the TRTF community, and the few who played it thought negatively of it. It was praised for its graphics but criticised for its buggy and underwhelming gameplay, with Chapter 2 being unbeatable. The Road That Falls. The Road That Falls is a Krea Studios game that's been in development since 2018. It was originally going to be a reboot of TRTF 1 but was later turned into an original game. The game will carry over some elements from the TRTF series, like Allison will make an appearance in it. A teaser trailer was released on the 18th of September 2022, which shows a rabbit animatronic hooked up to pipes. The game has been in development for 7 years now and is believed to still be in early development, which has led many to question if the game will ever actually come out. The Return to Freddy's 2 Alpha. TRTF 2 was first released as an alpha in January 2015. It was going to be made up of reused assets from FNAF 1 and 2 like its predecessor. The gameplay played out similar, with you having to check the hallway and wearing the mask. The game noticeably had Springtrap's face photoshopped onto Freddy, who at the time was believed to be Fredbear. The alpha only contained 1 night. The Return to Freddy's 2 Beta. In February 2015, TRTF 2 restarted development. It was now going to have mostly original assets, but more importantly, original models. The textures were slightly different to how they looked in the full release. The animatronics were also different models to the ones used in the full release. The alpha contained 2 nights. The Return to Freddy's 5 Abandoned Demo. The first demo released for TRTF 5 is known as the Abandoned Demo, released on the 12th of October 2015. The demo didn't have much content to it. It opens with a cutscene where Allison talks to you, then you are outside, you then have to go inside a building. The demo showcases point and click free roam gameplay. The only enemy is Lockjaw, who you avoid by turning off your flashlight. You have to find a key and then exit through a door where the demo ends. The Return to Freddy's 5 Unfinished Demo. The last demo released for TRTF 5 is an unfinished demo, released on the 25th of December 2015. In the demo, you're in one room. You can't walk around this time. Freddy and Foxy are the enemies active. They'll pop up behind the bars. You have to shine your light at them to make them leave. You have to find a key. When you find it, you can unlock a door and then leave. Then it says to be continued, which didn't age well considering the game's fate. Toonster. Toonster, also known as Toonster Games, is a FNAF fan game developer who was friends with Tyler from 2015 until 2018. He had minor involvement with TRTF 4 and worked on the cancelled TRTF games. In late 2016, he owned the rights to the TRTF series for a short period of time. In January 2017, he gave the rights back to Tyler and cancelled his version of TRTF 5 and a final version of Razzler. Outside of TRTF, he has worked on many other FNAF fan games, most notably the 6 Horrors series. The main animatronic in 6 Horrors is Toonybot, who is going to make an appearance in TRTF 5 as Tortured Toonie. Major updates. The major updates were planned updates of TRTF 1 through 4 in 2016. It was going to add more mechanisms, minigames, cutscenes, and remodel all the games. TRTF 2 and 3 had their offices remodeled, however no images of 1 and 4 have been released. The major updates were cancelled in 2018. Story mode. Story mode was going to be the main game mode of TRTF 5. The abandoned and unfinished demo showcased what a level in story mode would have looked like. The levels would have been called floors. There would have been 12 floors in total. There also would have been 9 endings that you could have got. Doug. Doug is an animatronic dog from TRTF 2 who is based off the dog with the same name from the Pixar movie Up. He is the animatronic who you have to play the audio to get him out of the hallway. He only appears in TRTF 2 as an enemy and makes a brief appearance in the Night 1 minigame in TRTF 3. Sally and Collie. Sally is a panda animatronic and Collie is a koala animatronic. They both appear in TRTF 5. They're both in the same entry because they're very similar characters. They were characters created by Madame Fear, who was a girlfriend of Tyler's friend Abel744. They were going to make appearances in Razzler as fairy tale variants. None of them were modelled though. Golden Lockjaw. Golden Lockjaw is a golden counterpart of Lockjaw. Golden Lockjaw is a torture suit who made a brief appearance in TRTF 3 in a secret minigame. He later appeared in TRTF 4 as an Easter egg. He is also the torture suit that Gron dies in. Shadow Lockjaw. Shadow Lockjaw is a shadow counterpart of Lockjaw. He actually first appeared in TRTF 1 before his original counterpart was introduced. He appeared in the Night 4 cutscene as a jump scare in a minigame. He also appeared in TRTF 2 and 3 as an Easter egg who can crash your game. Torture device. As its name implies, torture device is, well, a torture device, used to torture people. He was created by Allison and would have been an important character in TRTF 5. They would have made an appearance in one of the endings, which is considered the canon ending to the series. Cornuth Kotz. Cornuth Kotz is the night guard who you play as in TRTF 2. His name has become somewhat of a meme due to his spelling being Scott Cawthon but with the letters jumbled up. He doesn't have much relevance to the lore. Gilbert Facility. Gilbert Facility is a hospital founded in 1942 located in Japan. It was going to be the setting of Razzler. The hospital was funded by the government to help fight off super cancer. Gilbert. Gilbert is the name of the owner of the Gilbert Facility. With Razzler being cancelled, his only appearance was in The Dreadful Truth. He died of an illness related to old age on the 4th of January 1943 in Chapter 1. Kitty Fazcatchild. Kitty Fazcatchild is a girlfriend of BFP and one of the murder victims of Vincent. She was also an insert of Tyler's girlfriend. She makes an appearance in minigames in both TRTF 3 and 4. She was going to play a bigger role in TRTF 5, however she would later be retconned from the lore and wasn't present in The Dreadful Truth. This is likely due to Tyler's breakup with Kitty. Yin Koyu. Yin Koyu was a friend of Tyler who worked on TRTF 5. He is the one who released the unfinished demo of TRTF 5. However, it was later revealed that Yin Koyu was actually just Tyler on an alt. Yin Koyu was actually going to be a character in TRTF 5 and is said to make an appearance in The Road That Falls. TRTF Wiki. The TRTF Wiki, also known as Just Another Day in Freddy, is considered the official wiki for the TRTF series. It was founded by GingyBoy57 in August 2015. It is currently owned by GingyBoy57, Elijah McKendry, and the Tesla. With there being over 300 articles, it is the best way to learn about the TRTF series, and is where I got a lot of the information from for this video. Ulitum. Ulitum is a no commentary YouTuber best known for his old jump scares videos on many FNAF fan games. He is one of the reasons why TRTF got as big as it got, with his videos on TRTF 1 doing very well, with 2 having more than 1 million views. Also, his name is pronounced Ulitum, not Iulitum. We've all been saying it wrong. The I is silent and it's a reference to his real name, Julian, which is a Romanian name. Fazbear Inc. Fazbear Inc. is a manufacturing facility owned by Allison. It was going to be a setting of TRTF 5 story mode. It is where the animatronics are manufactured and it's also a location where the tortures take place. Not much of the location was made, but it is a really large building having 11 floors in total. Goldie Paradina. Goldie Paradina is the first restaurant opened by Fazbear Inc. on the 3rd of October 1943. The restaurant had 2 Springlock suits, Fredbear and Spring Bonnie. Gron and Vincent both worked at Goldie Paradina. 2 torture suits were accidentally sent to the location, those being Golden Lockjaw and Golden Kitty. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy were originally part of the location as spare suits, but that was retconned. Goldie Paradina was only seen at the end of night minigames in TRTF 4. Frank Burt's Pizza. Goldie Paradiner closed down and reopened as Frank Burt's Pizza on the 2nd of February 1944. It was the location that Lockjaw originated from, being known as Frank Burt. It also had Kitty Fazcat and 2 other animatronics I'll talk about later. The place closed down a month after opening due to poor food and drink quality. Fredbear's Family Diner. Fredbear's Family Diner was another pizzeria owned by Fazbear Inc. This is where TRTF 2 takes place. Despite the name, Fredbear was replaced with Freddy Fazbear. This is the location where Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Sugar, Doug and the Puppet originate from. It opened in 1987. The diner closed down and reopened as a different restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. There were 2 Freddy Fazbear's Pizzas in the TRTF universe. The first one opened after Fredbear's Family Diner closed down. Not much is known about this location. It was never seen in any of the games and was only mentioned in TRTF 4 and The Dreadful Truth. The other Freddy Fazbear's Pizza opened in November 2015 and is where TRTF 1 takes place. It was the last restaurant to be opened by Fazbear Inc. It closed down shortly after opening due to its poor quality animatronics. The location is irrelevant outside of TRTF 1 and wasn't really expanded much during The Dreadful Truth. Fazbear Fantasyland. Fazbear Fantasyland is where TRTF 3 takes place. It opened in December 2015, right after the closure of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It was opened by a group of teenagers who brought the abandoned Frank Burt's Pizza. One of those teenagers is Blake, who takes a night shift. Freddy Fazzy Funtime. Freddy Fazzy Funtime is where TRTF 4 takes place. It opened on the 8th of August 2030. It was opened by the same group who opened Fazbear Fantasyland 15 years earlier, who are now adults. This time they brought the original Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, which is in an abandoned state. Phone Buddies. The Phone Buddies are the owners of Fazbear Fantasyland and Freddy Fazzy Funtime. Their names are Wilson, John and Phil. Phil was later renamed to Chun. They gave you phone calls in TRTF 3 and 4. Secret minigames. In all the TRTF games except for 3, there is a chance that you'll get a secret minigame when you die. There are 7 minigames in TRTF 1, most of the sprites are reused from FNAF 2. You can also access them by putting codes into the custom night. One minigame has you play as Vincent. You walk around the pizzeria. You'll find a room with Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy and Golden Freddy. When you touch Golden Freddy, you'll get jump scared by him. You can access this minigame with the code 8, 5, 12, 16, 13, 5, 0. Another minigame has you play as Golden Freddy. You walk into a room with 5 kids, one being BFP. When you walk closer to BFP, a Golden Freddy flashes into Vincent, implying that Vincent is wearing a Golden Freddy suit. This also implies that in the last minigame, Vincent was getting into the Golden Freddy suit. It's Me will then flash on your screen and you'll get jump scared by Golden Freddy. You can access this minigame with the code 1987000. Another has you play as Freddy. You walk up and see Vincent in a suit walk past. In the next room you see BFP. The puppet is also in the room and goes up to Freddy. Then the minigame ends. You can access this minigame with the code 240100. Another minigame has you play as BFP. You're in a room with a big music box. When you touch the box it says I'm sorry. Then you get jump scared by the puppet. You can access this minigame with the code 26160000. There's 3 minigames that you can't access via custom night codes. One minigame is more so a cutscene than an actual minigame. It shows Vincent in an office. He is seen on the phone and it plays a FNAF 4 phone call from FNAF 1. Then you get jump scared by Golden Freddy. Another minigame is basically just a take cake minigame in FNAF 2, but BFP is the one who gets killed. You give the kids cake while BFP is outside. Then Vincent pulls up in a purple car and then disappears. Then you get jump scared by the puppet. The last minigame in TRTF 1 has you play as Sugar. You're in a room with 6 kids and a man. You give the kids cakes. They'll become more angry and get closer to Sugar. Then you get jump scared by Shadow Lockjaw. You can also briefly see Sugar being ripped to pieces. In TRTF 2 there's 6 minigames. One is another Take Cake clone, but you play as Spring Bonnie instead of Freddy. This one also shows BFP getting killed by Vincent. This time only BFP disappears. Another minigame has you play as Lockjaw. You're in a room with 6 kids. You have to touch a kid to stop them from getting angry. The minigame won't end until all the kids are angry. Another minigame has you play as a white figure who is speculated to be Scott Cawthon. They walk into a room and see BFP crying. He then touches him and the minigame ends. Another minigame has you play as Lockjaw who is following Golden Freddy around the pizzeria. One room has Shadow Lockjaw and another has a dead child. The last room you enter also has a dead child. You have to touch them to end the minigame. There's another minigame that's basically the same as the Golden Freddy minigame, but you play as Freddy who's following the puppet and instead of Shadow Lockjaw it's Golden Freddy. Another minigame has you play as Shadow Lockjaw. You're in a room with 3 kids and Spring Bonnie. You can see outside the pizzeria there is a key. In the other room there's also 3 kids, and you can see BFP outside the pizzeria. You can walk through the wall and if you touch BFP the minigame ends. And lastly, there's 5 in TRTF4, all are side-scrollers where you just have to walk to the end of 2 screens. One has you play as a puppet, you give gifts to 3 kids. In the next screen there are 6 kids all making fun of BFP. Another one plays out in a similar order but quite the contrast. You play as Kitty Fazcat and give kids gifts. Then in the next screen there are 6 dead kids next to BFP and Kitty Fazcat child. Another minigame has you play as Lockjaw, who is in a room with 5 kids. In the next screen you see BFP and Kitty Fazcat child who are happy together. Another minigame has you play as Collie, who is in a room with 3 kids. In the next screen there are 10 kids. The last minigame has you play as Golden Lockjaw, who is in a room with Golden Freddy, Spring Bonnie and 3 kids. In the next screen you see a ghost of BFP. Good ending. In TRTF3 there is a good ending which is unlocked by beating all 9 secret minigames. Each minigame will give you a plushie on your desk. You can unlock these minigames on any night. One minigame is Backstory, which is unlocked in the main menu by hovering your mouse back and forth from new game and continue. It has a chance of saying I am him instead of the night you're on when you go to continue. When you click continue you'll access the minigame. You play as BFP. It takes place in what I think is BFP's room. Nothing happens in the minigame, you just exit the door. When you beat the minigame you get a Kitty Fazcat plush. Another minigame is Kitty Corner, which is accessed by clicking on the Kitty Fazcat figure on the desk. In this minigame play as Kitty Fazcat. You're in a room with balloons and 4 children. At the start you pick up a staff, you then jump through a wall on your left. You then end up in this grey area with 4 dead kids. When you touch one of the dead kids, the minigame ends and you get a staff. Another minigame is He Has Been Here the Whole Time, which can only be accessed on night 5. There is a Lockjaw poster on your office which will occasionally turn into Shadow Lockjaw. It is like the Shadow Bonnie minigame in FNAF 3. You teleport to different rooms seen in other minigames. There's actually 2 rooms you're supposed to go to. One is a grey area with a dead child. You're supposed to touch a kid, then you'll get a Shadow Lockjaw plush. Another room you're supposed to go to is a room with Vincent and Shadow Lockjaw in a puddle of blood that says Help Me in the back. When you touch Lockjaw, the minigame ends and you get a Foxy plush. Another minigame is a Pass to Remember, which is accessed by clicking on a drawing of Vincent with a golden Freddy head. In this minigame you play as a child. You're in a room with 4 children next to a stage with Freddy, Bonnie and Chica. You have to jump past the stage to enter a room with Golden Freddy. If you touch Golden Freddy you fail the minigame. What you're supposed to do is go back to the left and then you'll fly up and enter a new screen. This area has a dead child. Vincent will run in holding the Golden Freddy head. You have to touch a dead kid before Vincent touches you, then you get a Golden Freddy plush. Another minigame is a Joy of Creation. You access it by pressing BFP on your keyboard. In this minigame play as BFP, who is in a room with 4 kids next to a stage with Freddy, Bonnie and Chica. If you walk towards the right, you'll be in a room with a puppet. If you touch a puppet, you'll fail the minigame. If you touch a wall on your left, you'll be thrown into another area. This area has a Lockjaw animatronic you have to touch, then you'll get a Lockjaw plush. Another minigame is Happiest Moment of My Life, which is unlocked by clicking a drawing in Cam 5. In the minigame you play as BFP. It's basically a clone of the Happiest Day minigame in FNAF 3. You walk up to 7 children who disappear into animatronic heads. Then text pops up that says always remember. Another minigame is FBP, which is unlocked by clicking a flashing arcade machine in Cam 6. In this minigame play as Vincent. It takes place at Frank Bert's Pizza, which the minigame's title, FBP, is an acronym for. You walk around a pizzeria. You'll then see a room with 5 kids and Lockjaw. One of those 5 kids is BFP. When you touch him, the minigame ends, then you get a Chica plush. There are 2 minigames you can play where you get the Golden Lockjaw plush. One of them is CD+. To access it, you press the keys CD+ on your keyboard. In this minigame play as Gron, which was the introduction to the character. You're in a green room. It has BFP chained up and Lockjaw parts. Sometimes it can be golden Lockjaw parts. You have to move the Lockjaw parts with your mouse and jump on them to reach the exit. The other minigame is Vigo's Joyful Day. To access the minigame, you have to click on the top of a crate in the office. In the minigame, you play as Vigo. You're in a room with 4 kids. When you go to the next room, it's the same room but one of the kids are crying. In the next room, you see a dead child next to Vincent. After unlocking all the plushes, when you beat night 5, you'll get the good ending, which shows the animatronics' heads on the floor with no light on them. Afterwards, you get a Bonnie plush. Incest rumour. This is referring to a rumour that Kitty Fazcat was Tyler's sister. The story behind how this rumour started varies between sources. From what I've heard though, Tyler said in a call once that Kitty Fazcat was his sister, and his friend Bio Ninja Games started posting about it. Some say that Tyler actually believed that they were distant siblings, but I don't know if this is actually true. This is nothing more than misinformation though, as they don't even live in the same continent. Separate volumes. I have mentioned many times already that the story of TRTF was retconned a lot, where there was actually two separate timelines to the series. TRTF 1 through 4 all canon to each other as Volume 1. The cancelled games TRTF 5, Radzo and Frankburt are part of Volume 2 and are not canon to TRTF 1 through 4. However, the story of TRTF 1 through 4 was written for The Dreadful Truth, which is part of Volume 2. Edmund Ahlstrom. Edmund Ahlstrom is the name Tyler now goes by. While he prefers to go by Edmund, Tyler is still his legal name and is still referred to as Tyler sometimes. The Return to Freddy's Remastered/Rebooted. TRTF 5 was originally going to be called TRTF Remastered and later TRTF Rebooted. This is because it was a reboot of the TRTF series with a new story. Apparently it was changed from remastered to reboot because Tyler didn't understand the difference between a remaster and a reboot at the time, with TRTF Remastered sounding like a remake of the first game. Tyler voices the phone guy. Tyler Ahlstrom is the voice actor for Vincent in TRTF 1 and TRTF 2. He also voice acted in a tape that plays in Night 2 to 5 in TRTF 4. It's unknown who is supposed to be talking, but it's speculated to be Vincent with him having the same voice actor.
Hello? See, I told you it won't be that bad. I also forgot to mention, check the party room every once in a while.
Tyler was a brony. Like most internet users in the early 2010s, Tyler was a fan of My Little Pony, so much so that he actually made multiple usernames related to the show. BFP actually stands for Brony Formers Prime 424, and also went under the name Poniator Films during late 2015 and early 2016, which is based off an MLP YouTuber, Mr. Poniator. BFP's death. BFP has always been canonically deceased, however the way he has died has changed 3 times throughout the series. In TRTF 1 and 2, he was killed by Vincent outside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. In TRTF 3, his death was changed. He hides inside a Lockjaw spring suit to hide from Vincent, and then gets spring-locked, now possessing Lockjaw. In TRTF 5, BFP was going to commit suicide by hanging himself. And finally, in The Dreadful Truth, he also got spring-locked by Lockjaw, but the circumstances surrounding his death are different. Vincent hallucinated BFP as a ghost child, and after it got close to him, Vincent attacked BFP, which made him hide inside Lockjaw. Blake's death. On night 6 in TRTF 4, Golden Lockjaw will always kill the player before 6 AM. This is because in the game's story, Blake is killed by Golden Lockjaw on his 6th night. After Blake dies, he is stuffed into a Golden Kitty torture suit. This is a result of Gron possessing Golden Lockjaw, mistaking Blake for Allison. End of night minigames. In TRTF 3 and 4, there are minigames that you can get at the end of most nights. In TRTF 3, players shadow Lockjaw in night 1 through 3. You give life to the animatronics on each night. On night 1 it's Kitty Fazcat, on night 2 it's Foxy, and on night 3 it's Freddy, Bonnie and Chica. In the night 5 minigame play as Vincent. This minigame shows Vincent scaring BFP into a Lockjaw suit, which kills him. In the TRTF 4 minigames you play as Vincent in all of them. In night 1 through 4 you kill a child. In the night 5 minigame it shows Gron slipping into the Golden Lockjaw suit. Bonnie is female. When FNAF 1 first released, it was commonly believed that Bonnie was female due to his feminine name and purple colour, but as we all know, Bonnie is actually male. However, in TRTF, Bonnie was always female. It's unknown if this was originally because Tyler thought that Bonnie was actually female or if intentionally made Bonnie female right from the start. TRTF 1 reused code. It is commonly believed that TRTF 1 reused code from FNAF 1 and 2, which would make it questionable as to whether or not it was the first complete popular FNAF fan game. However though, this is actually false information. This was assumed due to it being mostly made up of reused assets from FNAF 1 and 2, as well as having near identical cutscenes and minigames, and some have also noticed that the game is the least buggy in the series. Fazbear Inc. employees. The Fazbear Inc. employees worked for Allison. Across the timeline, there is believed to have been thousands of employees. Those who slacked off or even made mistakes were enslaved, overworked, abused, and even killed. They were killed by being put into a torture suit. They were also forced to worship the torture device. Gron and Vincent also worked at Fazbear Inc., and I'll talk about their fates later on. Cutscenes. At the end of each night in TRTF 1 and 2 you'll get a FNAF 2-esque cutscene. In TRTF 1 you're in the FNAF 1 office with its power outs. In the night 2 cutscene Freddy is at your door. In the night 3 cutscene Bonnie's at the right door and the puppet pops up. In the night 4 cutscene Chica and Foxy are now at your doors and instead of the puppet popping up it's Shadow Lockjaw. There's also a cutscene at the start of the game where you're in the FNAF 2 office and the night 4 phone call in FNAF 1 plays. In TRTF 2 you get cutscenes at the end of night 2 to 4. You're in a room with Sugar and Kitty Fazcat. You also get one at the start of the game, which is the same as the cutscene in Night 2. In Night 3, Sugar and Kitty are now looking at you, then Golden Freddy pops up. In Night 4, Shadow Lockjaw is there and moves whenever the player moves. Pony Kitty Games. Pony Kitty Games was a development duo that Tyler and Kitty Fazcat formed when Tyler went by Ponyata Films. The development team split up when Tyler and Kitty broke up. Life is but a butterfly's dream. Life is but a butterfly's dream is probably the most famous line from the TRTF series. It is said a few times in the TRTF 5 teasers and demos. I have no idea what this quote means, but I guess Tyler thought it was some way of coming across as profound. Hybrid animatronics. The hybrid animatronics are going to be the animatronics that would have appeared in TRTF 5 when it was TRTF rebooted. The hybrid animatronics are what their name suggests, hybrid variations of the animatronics throughout the series. They may have been inspired by the Nightmare Freddy teaser, which some called Hybrid Freddy when the teaser first came out. They were replaced with the Torture animatronics later on. BioNinja Games. BioNinja Games was a friend of Tyler who was co-developer for Frank Burt's, but he left the project before it was handed to Toonster. The only non-TRTF related game he worked on was his own game, Seven Nights at Scales, which was cancelled at an unknown date for unknown reasons. After Toonster gave up the rights to TRTF, Tyler then gave the rights to BioNinja. He wanted to finish TRTF 5, but ended up cancelling the game. This ended the TRTF series in February 2017. BioNinja has been offline since 2018 and is no longer friends with Tyler. The Return to Freddy's Chapter 1. Several months after BioNinja cancelled TRTF 5, Tyler came back to TRTF and began working on TRTF Chapter 1. This would have been a reboot of TRTF 1 and was the start of what would have been a reboot of TRTF 1 through 4. In July 2018, Tyler then restarted development and the game would no longer be a TRTF game, or even a FNAF fan game. This would become The Road That Falls, which like I said is still in development. This was the last TRTF game that Tyler worked on as lead developer. Colin Miller. Colin Miller is a member of Korea Studios who worked on TRTF Desolation. He also worked on other TRTF games that I'll go into later on. He hasn't worked on any other games outside of Korea. Mew Marissa. Mew Marissa, formerly known as the Fangs of Morph, was friends with Tyler and had a lead involvement in TRTF 5. She made a wolf animatronic named Fang, who was going to make an appearance in TRTF 5 as Tortured Fang and in Frank Burt's. Fang was also in his own game series, Five Nights at Fangs. There hasn't been any games complete for this series, with there only being demos released. Despite that, there's 2 games in development, Five Nights at Fangs Bowl and Bite and Five Nights at Fangs Pizza and Theatre. She is also no longer friends with Tyler and also doesn't want Fang being associated with TRTF. Sean Ahlstrom. Sean Ahlstrom is one of Tyler's younger brothers, who co-founded Korea Studios, and also worked on TRTF Chapter 1. In early 2025, he left Korea for unknown reasons, which led to the cancellation of a book he was working on under Korea Studios named A Split in Reality. The Return to Freddy's 2 Remastered. The Return to Freddy's 2 Remastered was a fan-made remake of The Return to Freddy's 2 made by Colin Miller. It began development in 2018. 2 demos were released in 2019. Before Colin joined Korea in 2020, TRTF 2 Remastered became an official remaster of TRTF 2. However, it was cancelled in October 2022 alongside other TRTF projects. Secret Revealer. Secret Revealer is a teaser game for TRTF 3 that also showed unreleased teasers for TRTF 2. It was released on the 9th of March 2015. In the application, you can enter codes to view images. If you enter 1111, you'll get an image of Sugar with a head on the floor. If you enter 6660, you'll get an image that shows half of Shadow Lockjaw and Lockjaw side to side. If you enter 1987, you'll get an image of the office in TRTF 3. If you enter 1357, you'll get an image of Lockjaw sitting down. If you enter 2468, you'll get an image of a hallway in Fazbear Fantasyland. If you enter 1975, you'll get an image of an alpha version of the TRTF 2 office. If you enter 4240, you'll get an image of a Freddy head on a desk next to 2 drawings with text above that says 2. If you enter 1234, it shows an image of Tyler making the map of Fazbear Fantasyland. If you enter 1995, you'll get an image of a wall at Fazbear Fantasyland. And lastly, if you enter 2401, you'll get an image of a green button, which is believed to be an unused panel for either the camera or maintenance panel in TRTF 3. A TRTF story desolation. A TRTF story desolation, or commonly just referred to as desolation, is the only TRTF game that is in development. The game is being worked on by many developers, with Brian being the director of the game. It is being made as a result of the original desolation being a flop. The game will be very different to any other TRTF game and is going for a console level quality. The game has been in development since March 2021. Brian made a post in June 2023 saying that desolation is pretty much complete, although that was 2 years ago and we've got no updates since. Apparently, since the post was made, the game has restarted development, which is why it's not came out yet. Trailers. There were trailers released for all the TRTF games. One trailer was released for TRTF 2 on the 6th of February 2015, which showed a different build to any of the demos that got released. TRTF 3 had 2 trailers, one released on the 30th of March and the other on the 5th of April, both in 2015. TRTF 4 had 1 trailer and TRTF 5 had 2 trailers. The second one was released on the 7th of June 2016, and the first one has an unknown release date. The other games were cancelled before a trailer could be made. The Return to Freddy's 2 demo. There were many demos released for TRTF 2, most know about the alpha and the beta, but on the 26th of February 2015, a demo was released which had the same graphics seen in the final game. The demo contained 2 nights. The Machine. The machine was created in the late 1800s. It was designed to make animatronics. It was used to make the animatronics at Fazbear Inc. The torture device was going to be attached to the machine. The machine's role was changed drastically in The Dreadful Truth. It wasn't designed to make animatronics. After Gilbert died, his soul was transported into the machine. It was later stolen by Allison and turned into an animatronic making machine. Ty. Ty is a red panda animatronic who is going to serve as a main animatronic in Radzilla. He would have been a threat alongside Collie and Sally, who were hacked into by Fazbear Inc. and turned hostile. He is also tied as OC during 2016, with Ty being short for Tyler. Patients. Patient 20, 48, and 63 are patients at the Gilbert facility whose souls are transferred to Ty, Collie, and Sally as an experiment to save them from super cancer, which was successful as they now possess the animatronics. Mike Schmidt. Mike Schmidt is a canon character to TRTF. You play as him in TRTF 1. He also worked at the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1994. He doesn't have much relevance to the story and has no affiliation with the Afton family, because they don't exist in TRTF. The Missing Children. The missing children were children who were murdered by Vincent. There were 9 of them in total, each possessing Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, Lockjaw, Kitty Fazcat, Sugar, and Vigo. With the exception of BFP, all of them were retconned in The Dreadful Truth, as a plotline of Vincent being a serial killer was removed. Linda Takalainen. Linda Takalainen was Gron's wife and grandmother of Carson. After her death, she became a ghost known as the Apparition. She was actually going to be an enemy in TRTF 5 in her ghost form. Charles and Jackson. Charles and Jackson Takalainen are the 2 children of Gron and Linda, Charles being the oldest and Jackson being the youngest. Both would have been in TRTF 5 and are in The Dreadful Truth. Jackson is the father of Carson and Charles replaced BFP as Gron's son, with BFP being reduced to a less important role. Jackson was sent to a foster home following the death of his parents. The Beast. The Beast, also known as the Unknown, is an animatronic rabbit torture suit. She wears a red top hat and has a weapon with 5 blades replacing her right hand. She also has a smaller head on her left shoulder, making her somewhat of a hybrid animatronic. Vincent's death. Vincent has always been canonically deceased. He died in the Night 5 phone call in TRTF 1. His death has mostly been the same, with him being killed while on the phone with Mike Schmidt in November 2015.
I'm scared, Mike. I don't know what to do. I don't know why it's me. It's always me. Please.
It wasn't confirmed who killed him until a minigame in a teaser game for TRTF 5. He was stabbed to death by Kitty Fazcat Child, who wasn't a murder victim anymore. Before that, it was speculated that he was killed by a ghost of one of the children he killed, which was a common FNAF 1 theory at the time. In The Dreadful Truth, he was killed by the ghost of Linda. TRTF 1 ending. When you beat Night 6 in TRTF 1, you get a news article that says that Vincent attacked Mike and was arrested. Mike quit his job after the attack. This ending doesn't make sense since Vincent was supposed to have died in the Night 5 phone call. Tyler later realized this and his plot point was completely removed in later installments. Teaser Game 1. There were 5 teaser games released for TRTF 5. Perhaps the most well known is Teaser Game 1. It was released in May 2015. This is a minigame cutscene which takes place in 1943. It shows Gron and Vincent in a room with the machine. The machine is manufacturing the animatronics. It later fast forwards to 2036. It now shows beheaded heads hung on the ceiling. The room is full of blood and the machine appears damaged and is creating the hybrid animatronics. Protect Your Son. Protect Your Son, or Teaser Game 2, is another teaser game for TRTF 5. This was released in July 2015. It's a minigame where you play as Gron and have to protect BFP from the Lockjaws who are after him. You have to shoot them down. If you get touched by one of the Lockjaws, you die. Towards the end, you'll get a giant Lockjaw head boss fight. Teaser Game 6. Out of all the teaser games, Teaser Game 6 has definitely got the most content to it. It has a game mode, teaser images, and 7 minigames. The first minigame shows 2 employees discovering the gold Lockjaw suit after Gron was killed in it. The second minigame shows a Kitty Fazcat child stabbing Vincent while on the phone. The third minigame is called Father and Son. You play as BFP. You're in a room with a stage. Gron is also in the room. When you touch Gron, the room is covered in blood and body parts, and Lockjaw is in the room. The fourth minigame has you play as Kitty Fazcat, who is in a room with balloons, Allison heads, and blood covering the wall that has a rainbow on it. In the next screen, you see a dead child. To end the minigame, you have to go to the exit at the start. In the fifth minigame, you play as Lockjaw, who is in a very similar room to the room in the last minigame. The screen will slowly get thinner until it covers a screen in total darkness. Then text pops up that says, "Life is but a butterfly's dream." The sixth minigame has you play as Gron, who has to collect body parts falling from the sky. Later in the minigame, the body parts fall quicker and more frequently. If too many hit the floor, Gron will start crying and then rips off his jaw. After that, you get a golden Lockjaw jump scare. The seventh minigame is called Never Happy. In this minigame, you play as the ghost of BFP who walks through a pizzeria. In the first room, there is a kid walking around. In the next screen, there's a beast and Kitty Fazcat child. It ends with BFP approaching a noose where he's about to hang himself. Nightmare Lockjaw. Nightmare Lockjaw appeared as an enemy in Teaser Game 6. Nightmare Lockjaw try and kill the player in their house. In the menu of Teaser Game 6, you can get jump scared by Nightmare Lockjaw if you stay there for too long. Not much is known about Nightmare Lockjaw. It is believed that the game mode is Carson's nightmare and that Nightmare Lockjaw isn't actually real in the TRTF universe. However, though he wasn't mentioned in the Dreadful Truth, so he might not even be real in the Nightmare world anymore. TRTF 5 Unreal Engine. TRTF 5 was originally going to be programmed with Click Team like the previous games, however though it was later going to be programmed in Unreal Engine, likely due to the possibility of it reaching Click Team's limitations. There is a playable build for this Unreal version which plays like the other demos. You just pick up a key and go through a door. TRTF 5 Runtime Demo. TRTF 5 Runtime Demo is another one of the Click Team demos for TRTF 5. It had a different perspective with it being more zoomed in. You can go to different rooms and pick up multiple keys. This demo was never complete though and you can't win. Adventure Mode. Adventure Mode was going to be a game mode for TRTF 5. It was going to have a FNAF world look to it. Despite its look though, it was going to have more of a Five Nights at Fuckboys approach and have adult humour. Very little was made for the game mode. There would have been adventure variants of Lockjaw, BFP, Allison, Fang, Fairy Tale Ty, Kitty Fazcat, Shadow Lockjaw, Sugar, and Toonie. There would have also been a BFP boss fight similar to the Scott Cawthon boss fight in FNAF World. Emil Mako Sprite. In the Sugar minigame in TRTF 1, there is a man who watched Sugar giving the kids gifts. This sprite was named Emil Mako, which was obviously a reference to the creator of Candy the Cat, Emil Mako. Also, Sugar breaking into pieces at the end is a reference to how she was removed from the game. TRTF Simulator. The TRTF Simulator games were made by Fabio03. They're simulator games of TRTF 1 through 4. It has you play as the animatronics who are trying to kill the Night Guard. These games were made in 2016, making them some of the earliest TRTF fan games, and probably the first to become popular. TRTF Jumpscare Simulator. TRTF Jumpscare Simulator was made by Itsanti1. It was released on the 12th of October 2017. It is just an application that shows you jumpscares from TRTF 1 through 5. The reason it is this high on the Iceberg is because YouTube's video on the game has 10 million views, making it the most viewed TRTF video on all of YouTube. Minaxa. Minaxa is a YouTuber who makes FNAF video essays. Many of them cover FNAF fan games. On the 5th of February 2023, he made a video on TRTF, which went viral, now having 2 million views. This video caused TRTF to resurface in popularity and started a TRTF video essay trend. Despite this though, the video is commonly disliked amongst TRTF fans for its negative influence on the series. This video is where Super Cancer and Gron slipping on soap jokes came from. Another TRTF 1 remake overdone. Another TRTF 1 remake overdone is a fan-made reboot of TRTF 1 made by Blackboy74. It was going to be a reboot series of TRTF, going off by what Chapter 1 was going to be like. It was originally called TRTF Rebooted. It was released on the 23rd of December 2019, on the 5th anniversary of TRTF. A sequel began development after its release, however that got cancelled and was passed over to Suslord, who formed a development team known as Luminance, who finished the game as TRTF Winter Wonderland. Despite the sequel being cancelled, the game was updated on the 31st of October 2021 as TRTF Rebooted Plus. It was later updated again on the 24th of December 2022 and renamed to another TRTF 1 remake overdone. TRTF Winter Wonderland. TRTF Winter Wonderland was made by Luminance. It was released on the 27th of March 2021. It is the most well-known TRTF fan game, having over 1 million views on GameJolt. As its name would suggest, it has a festive theme to it. The game has FNAF 2-like gameplay. It was inspired by TRTF 2, having the same cast of animatronics, except for Kitty Fazcat, which is likely due to her being an OC of someone who doesn't want to be affiliated with TRTF. Sugar noticeably got a redesign, now being a red cat who looks very different from Candy the cat. There's a variety of between night segments, with there being multiple types of 2D minigames and free roam segments. If you want to know more about this game, there's a full review on the game by The Gecko, which talks about the gameplay and minigames in more detail. TRTF Rebuilt. TRTF Rebuilt is a fan-made TRTF series by Black Moon Studios. It was going to be a rebuild of TRTF 1 through 4 and Frankbert's. They're probably the most infamous TRTF fan games. The first game was released on the 28th of January 2021 as a remake of TRTF 1. It was very popular and was met with positive reviews. TRTF 2 Rebuilt was released on the 8th of August 2021 on the 6th anniversary of FNAF 1. When it came out, it was met with mixed reviews. The game was overshadowed by its controversies. Mooney Glare, director of Black Moon Studios, was criticized for his mistreatment of developers who worked on the game and for stealing art and not crediting it in the game. He was also criticized for over-sexualizing the female animatronics in the games. All this led to the later installments of TRTF Rebuild being cancelled. However, though later a new game was announced on the 1st of February 2024 called Rebuilt Minds, which is still in development as of right now. TRTF Stories. TRTF Stories was made by Shot Rabbit. It was released on the 5th of March 2024. It's another TRTF 1 remake, which, as you've probably noticed, there is a lot of these. This is also another project that was going to remake the whole series. It is currently on hiatus, with there only being one game released so far. It's Rockman. It's Rockman is a developer who released a TRTF 1 remake on the 5th of October 2019. This was the first popular TRTF 1 remake. This game, alongside Black Boy's TRTF 1 remake, kickstarted the TRTF remake trend. In 2021, It's Rockman began working on a remake of his TRTF 1 remake, which was released as a demo on the 18th of October 2021. The game was later renamed TRTF Legacy. It is still in development to this day, with there being updates posted every few months. Dragon Dave Mode. Dragon Dave Mode is the name of Night 7 in TRTF 4. It isn't a custom night, but is max mode level difficulty. Nothing happens when you beat it, you just get a 3rd star. The name Dragon Dave Mode is a reference to a Twitch streamer named Dragon Dave 17, who played FNAF fan games on his channel. Night 8. There is a Night 8 in TRTF 1, 3 and 4. In all games, it is accessed in the same way you access Night 8 in FNAF 2, with you having to flick between New Game and Continue until it lands on 8. This time, Night 8 actually has AI and is turned up to the maximum. Story Mode Ending. The Story Mode ending is one of the endings you can get in TRTF 5. It is a minigame where you play as BFP. You're in a red room with a noose and a Lockjaw plushie. The Lockjaw plushie talks to BFP and tries to talk him out of committing suicide. If you touch the rope, the minigame ends, implying that BFP killed himself. Die Alone Ending. The Die Alone Ending is another ending that you could get in TRTF 5. It is a minigame where you play as BFP. You're in front of a black screen with the dead children wearing animatronic masks and Allison. The children disappear and their masks fall to the ground. Eventually, BFP vanishes. Allison is the only one left, implying that he is still alive. Nexus Drakeson. Nexus Drakeson is a former 3D artist who made a lot of FNAF 3D artwork during 2014 and 2015. He was one of the best 3D FNAF artists at the time, with many even believing that his Freddy model was an official animatronic model. It was given the name New Freddy. An image of Nexus Freddy was used in the news article at the start of TRTF 1 alongside many other reused fan art. Volume 2 Timeline. The timeline for TRTF changed a lot throughout the series. By the time the series ended, it had been confirmed when each game, including the cancelled ones, would have taken place. Razzler is still the first in chronological order. It takes place in 1943. Then it's TRTF 2, which takes place in 1987. Then TRTF 1, which takes place in 2015. TRTF 3 also takes place in 2015, but a bit later on. TRTF 4 takes place in 2030. Frankbert's and TRTF 5 both take place in 2035, with Frankbert's being slightly earlier. Hallway Bug. The Hallway Bug is an infamous bug in TRTF 2, where if you shine your light in the hallway when an animatronic is there, they'll kill you regardless on whether or not you wear the mask. This bug makes the game completely RNG based. Rare screens. There are rare screens you can get in TRTF 2 to 4 when you start up the game or start at night. In TRTF 2, when you start the game, you have a chance of encountering a rare screen of Golden Freddy that will crash your game. There's also a Shadow Lockjaw Either screen which was only in the demo. The most well known of the rare screens is the 5 screens of Lockjaw you can get when starting the game. Each screen has Lockjaw opening his mouth wider to the point where his head is coming off, revealing BFP's corpse inside. In TRTF 4 there's rare screens that can happen when you start at night. There's 3 images of Golden Lockjaw in a room in Freddy Fazzy Funtime. There's also going to be rare screens of Torture Device and BFP that you can get when starting the game in TRTF 5. The original uploads were deleted. The original game drop pages for every TRTF game was deleted in 2017, so many posts made on the game's pages are now lost. Obviously a game series as famous as the Return to Freddy's will never become lost media, with all the released builds being re-uploaded. Scott Cawthon's involvement with TRTF. Scott Cawthon knew about TRTF since it was first released, where he told Tyler to rename the game to something else, which was the Return to Freddy's. Scott's involvement with Tyler didn't end there though. He actually gave Tyler early access to FNAF 3 and 4, he also followed the development of TRTF 5 and wished Tyler luck with the game. He even commented on a now deleted trailer for TRTF 5. Sabani Games. Sabani Games is a development team formed by Tyler in early 2015. It was made up of several friends of his who were FNAF fan game developers. It was short-lived though, and no games were published under that name. Car Crash. On the 23rd of December 1943, Gron was going to take his family to Golly Paradiner. On his way there though, Allison deliberately crashed his car, hospitalizing everyone. Linda is later murdered in a hospital by a fake doctor who works for Allison. Gron suicide. I've talked about how Gron dies in TRTF 4. He slips over an object and falls into the Golden Lockjaw suit. Gron's death is different in The Dreadful Truth though. He actually kills himself by deliberately going inside the torture suit. He died in 1944, 86 years before the events of TRTF 4. He came back to life possessing Golden Lockjaw and kills Blake. Lockjaw incident. When you beat Night 6 in TRTF 3, you get a news article that tells you that Lockjaw killed 6 children by hugging them to death. This caused Fazbear Fantasyland to be shut down. Animatronic ban. Following the Lockjaw incident, animatronics were made illegal with them being deemed too dangerous. In 2030, the ban was lifted and animatronics were made legal again, but if any further incidents happened, they'll be made illegal again. Following this law being passed, Freddy Fazzy Funtime opened. Frank Burt shootout. The last thing that happens in The Dreadful Truth is that Carson goes into Frank Burt's and shoots up the place, killing many of Allison's gang members. And yeah, that's how the book ends. Tycraz Mania. Tycraz Mania is a game being made by Tyler Ahlstrom. It began development in 2016. It was going to be a 3D platformer game where you would have played as Ty from Razzler. It later became a career project. On the 11th of September 2022, it was announced that a survival horror game was in development called Tycraz. In May 2023, Tycraz Mania was cancelled, but elements from the game will still be used in Tycraz. The game is still in development. Retro Soldiers. Retro Soldiers is a royalty-free song by Deppard. It was released on SoundCloud on the 9th of February 2014. The song was used in Teaser Game 1. Most who know the song associate it with TRTF, with many fans calling it the TRTF anthem. Come Little Children. Come Little Children is a song from the 1993 live-action Disney movie Hocus Pocus. The song gained a cult following in the early 2010s after being used in many YouTube videos. A music box rendition of the song was used in TRTF 1, as a music box that plays when viewing the prize corner camera. Overpowered. Overpowered is a song by Phantom Power released on the 5th of May 2013. The song was used in the menu for Teaser Game 1. After that, it became a very commonly used menu theme for FNAF fan games during 2015. TRTF 5 was cancelled twice. We all know that TRTF 5 was cancelled, but it was actually cancelled twice. The first time was in December 2015, shortly before the release of the unfinished demo. This is because Tyler wanted to leave the FNAF community. Shortly afterwards though, he changed his mind and got back to working on the game. The second time it was cancelled was when Bio Ninja was given the rights and later cancelled his version of TRTF 5. Razzler Unfinished Builds. Razzler was cancelled before any demos could be released. However, on the 7th of March 2019, Toonster released 2 unfinished builds for the game. It was just a menu and an unfinished version of the first night. You could look around the office, but you can't really do anything. Tyler is gay. Despite being well known that Tyler had a girlfriend, he is actually gay. That is one of the reasons why Tyler and Kitty broke up. Apparently, Tyler dated Kitty to hide the fact that he was gay, rather than him actually being in love with her. Tyler vent messages. I've mentioned already how BFP is a self-insert of Tyler, but Tyler has inserted his emotions into other parts of the series. The references to BFP being depressed and suicidal is a reflection of what Tyler was actually going through at the time. One teaser for TRTF3, which showed Lockjaw, had several insults, which is referencing to a lot of hateful comments Tyler got on the TRTF games. These insults were probably just made up though, and were just examples of the kind of stuff that people were saying about him. In the second trailer for TRTF5, it also says stuff like "you're a mistake" and "you're mentally ill," which is apparently stuff that Tyler was actually told. Kitty Fazcat is Tyler's least favourite character. Tyler has confirmed that Kitty Fazcat is his least favourite character. This is obviously because she is the OC of his ex-girlfriend. Zombie Wars SMT. Zombie Wars SMT is a former FNAF YouTuber who is best known for her theory videos. She also played many FNAF fan games including TRTF. She would later be a voice actor for Wilson in TRTF3.
Hey Blake, how's it going? You're probably wondering why we called you to help us out with this job. Well, things get pretty heavy over here.
Unused minigames. There were a few unused minigames in TRTF2. 3 were near identical minigames to minigames seen in FNAF 2, those being Take Cake, Give Life, and Go Go Go. These are most likely cut due to TRTF2 going in a more original direction. One original minigame had you play as BFP, who is in a room with a computer. This is a similar minigame to Backstory in TRTF3. The last minigame has you play as Balloon Boy. You have to bounce balloons back that are falling from the sky. If one touches a floor, you fail. The minigame ends after 90 seconds. There's also one unused minigame in TRTF4. In the minigame you play as Gron. In the first screen there's 3 kids crying and the room is covered in blood. In the next screen there's even more blood and 10 dead kids. This minigame is technically not unused. The minigame is supposed to appear, but due to a bug you'll never get it. Bite of 87. In TRTF1 it is mentioned that Bite of 87 occurred in this timeline. However though, this was never mentioned again in the series and is likely no longer canon. Toxic fandom. The TRTF fandom is often labelled as being toxic. A big reason for this is because of how many degenerates are in the community, as well as many not liking Tyler himself for the bad actions he did a long time ago. They also have a reputation for attacking those who dislike TRTF. Obviously not everyone in the community is like this, but the TRTF fandom is generally not viewed in a positive light. The Return to Freddy's 1-4 Remastered. There was actually a third attempt at remaking TRTF 1-4. This series is going to be called The Return to Freddy's Remastered. It began development in September 2020. The games are going to be made by Colin Miller with assistance from Korea. Colin's TRTF 2 remaster would have served as the official remake of TRTF 2. On the 20th of October 2022, the series was cancelled. Aside from TRTF 2 Remastered, the games are cancelled with nearly nothing being made for them. The Return to Freddy's Remastered. Not to be confused with any fan project or the original title of TRTF 5, there was actually going to be a remaster of TRTF 1 made by Tyler Ahlstrom. It began development in April 2015, shortly after TRTF 3 came out. It was cancelled just a few days later. There is almost no information on the game. It's possible that Tyler wants to remake TRTF 1 with original models, but this hasn't been confirmed. Mad Mind. Mad Mind was going to be an RPG game made by Tyler Ahlstrom. It began development in 2016. It was originally just going to be a teaser game for TRTF 5, but was later going to be a full-on game. It was going to be the first game in chronological order, taking place at the start of The Dreadful Truth. The game was cancelled early on in development. In March 2019, 2 demos were released by Toonster. In 2022, it was announced that Mad Mind was getting a revival by Korea Studios. It was going to come out on the 25th of December 2023, but nearly 2 years later, the game still hasn't came out, and it's believed to still be in early development. Old Lore. Old Lore is a text document from November 2015, which explained what at the time was the full story of TRTF. This was later rewritten as The Dreadful Truth. Tyler never actually released it, however on the 12th of July 2016, a fandom user by the name Fuck Tyler leaked the lore doc on Tyler's wiki page. For the next 2 years, it was believed that the lore doc was misinformation, but after being discovered that it wasn't, the lore doc was publicly released by Ginger Boy and Black Boy. The End. The End is a music video made by Tyler Ahlstrom. It was released on the 31st of October 2016. It is a mashup of a Living Tombstone song, I Got No Time, and It's Been So Long. The music video featured TRTF characters and TRTF locations. At the end of the music video, Tyler announces that TRTF is over, and it later shows a teaser for Tycraz Mania and 2 models made for the game. A Story. A Story is a video uploaded onto YouTube by Tyler Ahlstrom on the 1st of November 2018. It is a 71-minute long video where Tyler talks about his life and how TRTF impacted his life. Teaser Game 3. Teaser Game 3 is another teaser game for TRTF 5. It is a platformer minigame where you play as a thief who has to steal sugar heads. This minigame might be a reference to Tyler stealing Candy the Cat. Teaser Game 7. Teaser Game 7 is the last teaser game released for TRTF 5. It is an Undertale boss parody where you fight Mecha Ponyata. Like Teaser Game 2 and 3, this was just made for fun and nothing like it would have actually been in the game. Tanner Feline. Tanner Feline is a developer who had major involvement with the later TRTF games. After Toonstone was given the rights, he and Tyler Feline were lead developers of TRTF 5. However, due to disagreements they had, they each started working on their own versions. Both were cancelled shortly afterwards. Tanner Feline was also made the director of the major updates after Tyler stopped working on the series. But like TRTF 5, he cancelled it. Outside of TRTF, Tanner made his own FNAF fan game, Five Nights at Tannerland, released in 2015, and also the highly anticipated Original Location, which began development in 2016. In June 2022, many started to dislike Tanner after it was revealed that he had associations with the pair. Original Location was never confirmed cancelled, but Tanner has been inactive since the pair scandal came out. Fritz Smith. Fritz Smith is the name of the night guard you play as in Night 7 in FNAF 2. In TRTF 1, Vincent's name was originally Fritz Smith. During the FNAF 2 era, some believe that Fritz Smith was actually the purple guy. Some also believe that he was a phone guy. His name was changed to Vincent in The Dreadful Truth, a name that many believe was William Afton's name before his name was revealed. Spring Bonnie. I've talked about how Spring Bonnie is relevant to the TRTF lore. However, though Spring Bonnie was actually going to be an enemy in TRTF 2, she could actually appear in the hallway in the demo, but she can't kill you. Also, yes, Spring Bonnie is female. She did make an Easter egg appearance as a rare screen and in 2 minigames. She was also going to be re-added in the major update, but obviously never came out. Mimus. Mimus, also known as Ping, is a developer who worked on TRTF 5. Outside of TRTF, he later joined Radiance and worked on Fnatic 6.0 and Oblivious Casa. Hero Golem. Hero Golem is a developer and 3D modeler who worked on TRTF 5. He worked on many other games outside of TRTF, most of which got cancelled. One of his games was It's Time for the Puppet. A character from the game, Ripdoll, was going to make an appearance in TRTF 5 as Tortured Ripdoll. Hero Golem doesn't make games anymore but is still active on DeviantArt. Tortured Chuck. Tortured Chuck is a torture variant of an animatronic cheetah named Chuck, who is from the Five Nights at Chuck series made by Jay Lariah and Zach the Kid. GPD mode. GPD mode, which stands for Goldie Powered Diner mode, would have been a sit and survive game mode in TRTF 5, where you would have had to survive until 6 AM. As the name suggests, it would have taken place at Goldie Powered Diner. It would have had 6 nights. This would have been where Tortured Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, Golden Lockjaw and Golden Kitty would have came into it. Co-op mode. There was actually plans for an online mode in TRTF 5, which would have been a multiplayer game mode called Co-op mode. It would have basically been an 8-bit 2D version of story mode. It would have had text chat. There was actually an alpha released in late 2015, however the servers are long dead. TRTF 5 Revival. TRTF 5 Revival was made by Jokesy. It was the first complete remake of TRTF 5 being released in January 2018. It was the only FNAF fan game that Jokesy worked on. It received many updates until Jokesy left the internet in December 2019. BloomQ64. BloomQ64 is a developer who made 2 TRTF 5 remakes. The first was TRTF 5 Unofficial, which was the second complete TRTF 5 remake. It was released in March of 2018. The second one was TRTF 5 Resurrection, released in February 2020. TRTF 5 Unofficial is one of the first high-quality TRTF fan games, so much so that BloomQ later worked on the original Desolation. Devin Manning. Devin Manning is a developer best known for the Five Nights at Dolls and Five Nights at Illuminati series. He was also friends with Tyler Ulstrom and was co-developer for Madmind. In 2017, he was exposed as a paedophile. He had inappropriate interactions with minors and also was into NSFW fan art involving minors. After being exposed, he left the internet. TRTF 5 Characters Video. This is a video by Raphael TS, titled The Return to Freddy's 5 Characters Old Before Reboot and Dreadful Truth. It's a slideshow of TRTF 5 characters while it plays Retro Soldiers. The video has 700,000 views, making it one of the most viewed TRTF videos. It is perhaps the reason why Retro Soldiers became so popular within the community as well. Devon Ulstrom. Devon Ulstrom is Tyler's boyfriend and supposed husband. He is part of Korea as a composer. They got engaged in 2019, but it was never confirmed that they got married. But considering how long ago that was and how they're still together, they probably did get married, but it just wasn't made public. He composed a soundtrack for TRTF 5 Remastered and is going to be the composer for the new Desolation. JFun300. JFun300 is a developer best known for the Five Nights at Thomas's series. It was one of the first popular FNAF fan game series. It originally ran from 2015 till 2016. In 2021, the first game got a remake with the help from Radiance, titled Five Nights at Thomas's Dehydration. There is a remake of the second game that started development in 2021 but was currently on hiatus. JFun worked on TRTF5 after it got moved to Unreal Engine. Sinkaruni. Sinkaruni is a developer best known for the Five Nights at the Krusty Krab series. The first game came out in January 2015 and the second game, Five Nights at the Chum Bucket, was released in May 2015. There was a third game, Five Nights at Rock Bottom, in development but that got cancelled. In May 2022, a third installment did eventually release, titled Five Nights at the Krusty Krab Chapter 3. Sinkaruni also worked on TRTF5 after it got moved to Unreal Engine. Buster. Buster is a black animatronic rabbit who is going to appear in Frankbirds. He is going to make an appearance in TRTF2 in the major updates. He would have been in the minigame, which is a Take Cake clone, but he would have played as Buster instead of Freddy. He was also going to appear in TRTF5 as Tortured Buster. Jester in a Box. Jester in a Box is a Jack-in-a-Box animatronic who's going to appear in TRTF5 and Frankbirds. He's likely a reference to Gron, who is a green jester. As far as we know, he would have only appeared in a minigame in TRTF5 as no torture variant was made. Murderer. In TRTF1, Golden Freddy has 2 jump scares. On night 5 it's his FNAF 2 jump scare, and on night 6 it's a Freddy power outage jump scare but recolored yellow. In July 2024, Adjuster Slumber theorized that the Golden Freddy in night 6 is actually Vincent wearing a Golden Freddy suit, as Vincent is seen wearing a Golden Freddy suit in the minigames and is mentioned in the news article after beating night 6 that Vincent tried to attack Mike and banged on his door, something that you can actually hear before he attacks on night 6. It was later discovered that the Golden Freddy jumpscare sprite was called Murderer, meaning that this theory could very well be true. This plot point was never acknowledged again after TRTF1 and is no longer considered canon. Withered Balloon Boy. Withered Balloon Boy is an enemy in TRTF1. He is only active on night 5. He'll appear in your office like everyone else, however he won't kill you and instead will crash your game. He is reused fan art by Fazboggle. This is his only appearance in the series. Purple Freddy. Purple Freddy is an Easter egg in TRTF4. He has a very rare chance of appearing in your office and crashing your game. He is one of the rarest Easter eggs in the series as there doesn't seem to be any documented encounters of him. BioNinja's TRTF5. BioNinja's TRTF5 was going to be very different to Tyler's version. It would have had a different story and many characters would have been replaced. This version was infamously going to have a tortured circus baby, which many TRTF fans did not like, saying that its location characters felt out of place from TRTF. BioNinja actually cancelled the game due to the negative reception it received. Femjaw. Femjaw is a female version of Lockjaw who was originally a joke character that Tyler and Marissa made, but she was later planned to make an appearance in TRTF5. Nothing is known about her outside of that. The Legend Never Dies. The Legend Never Dies was text used in the teaser for TRTF2. The line is often quoted amongst TRTF fans when praising TRTF or referring to how it still has a following despite ending almost a decade ago. Joke characters. Adventure mode in TRTF5 was going to have a lot of joke characters that were made by Tyler and his friends. The most well-known one being Adventure Lick Juice, who was a variant of Lockjaw who had a comedically large jaw. Apparently the name comes from a GameJolt comment of someone referring to Lockjaw as Lick Juice. Other joke characters were Adventure Lick Juice's wife, Adventure Fruity Frapples, Adventure Beast, Adventure Chunky Chip Monkey, Adventure Gramps, and Adventure Robbie Rotten. With TRTF5 and Adventure mode being cancelled, none of these characters made an appearance anywhere else. Wood Buddy. Wood Buddy is an animatronic built by Carson as a companion. He would have made an appearance in TRTF5, but would have just been a background character with no gameplay or lore relevance. Scribby. Scribby is a developer who was friends with Tyler. He tested TRTF4 and worked on TRTF5. Outside of TRTF, he made the Fazbear's Return series, which was heavily inspired by TRTF. There were 9 games made from 2015 until 2021. I actually did a video on this series, so I'd recommend watching that if you're interested in knowing more about it. Scribby no longer makes games, but occasionally makes a post on GameJolt. FNCP. FNCP is probably the most well-known TRTF YouTuber. He made a review of each TRTF game and made 2 videos covering the cancelled games and the series' development. He's also made other video essays on other FNAF fan games. If you're a TRTF fan and have never heard of him, that's probably because his videos are in Spanish. DN Wolf. DN Wolf is another Spanish-speaking FNAF fangame video essay channel. In August 2020, he released a video La Historia de The Return to Freddy's Saga Completa, which translates to the history of the Return to Freddy's complete saga. While it's the only TRTF video he made, it was critically acclaimed and is often considered to be the best TRTF video essay. Unlike other video essays, this one mainly focuses on the story of the games and doesn't cover the gameplay or development much. TRTF Saga Server. TRTF Saga Server is the biggest Discord server dedicated to TRTF, having more than 400 users. It was created by Gingy Boy in 2016. It was connected to the TRTF wiki. At one point, Tyler himself owned the server and it was considered the Korea server as well. Over the years, the server had many owners, with Toonster owning it from 2020 until 2023. The server has garnered a negative reputation, with it being the origin of a lot of drama within the community. The server's reputation worsened after Alcavaz, who is anti-LGBTQ, took ownership. These days the server is not very active, being long past its peak days. TRTF3 Bonum Iterum. TRTF3 Bonum Iterum is a TRTF3 remake by Sir Memphisto. It was released in January 2023. It is the most well-known remake of TRTF3. It had a very different visual style and soundboard, however it plays out almost the same as TRTF3, with the addition of an audio mechanism, which was added due to the original TRTF3 being buggy. Horn Reviews. Horn Reviews is a developer who is best known for making a remake of TRTF 1 through 4. The series was originally named after Windows PCs, with it being TRTF Windows 95 Edition, TRTF 2 Windows 98 Edition, and TRTF 3 Windows XP Edition. TRTF 3 Windows XP Edition was released under that name. TRTF 1 and 2 were later renamed the Anniversary Editions, so was his TRTF 4 remake later on, with them each coming out on the 10th anniversary of the original game's release. To my knowledge, Horn Reviews is the only person to have completed a remake of TRTF 1 through 4 using original assets. Project Midway. Project Midway is the fourth installment of the Five Nights at Chuck series. It was originally going to be the fourth installment of the Six Horrors series, titled Six Horrors Midway. It was going to be a crossover of several FNAF fan games. This included Five Nights at Chuck's, Six Horrors, Five Nights at Fang's, Fazbear's Return, and The Return to Freddy's. It would have had the main animatronic from each game. At one point, all these games would have been considered canon to each other. But in the final game, the crossover aspect was changed, and Joe from Fazbear's Return was the only character from another game series to make an appearance. And even then, the lore of Fazbear's Return didn't tie in with Five Nights at Chuck's. However though, Five Nights at Chuck's and Six Horrors have been canon since Five Nights at Chuck's 2. TRTF 1 is scripted. The way most FNAF fan games are programmed was that the animatronics will randomly move between cameras and can eventually appear in your office at a randomized time. With TRTF 1 though, the AI is mostly scripted. The animatronics will attack in a certain order and will go directly to your office. It will first be the puppet, then Bonnie, then Freddy, then Chica, then Foxy. On night 5 after Foxy it will be Golden Freddy, then Withered Balloon Boy, and on night 6 it will be Shadow Dog and then Vincent. TRTF2 Wiki. The TRTF2 Wiki was considered the official TRTF Wiki before Just Another Day in Freddy. The wiki was created in February 2015 by Christopher Grieg. It was originally just about TRTF2, but later was about the whole series. The wiki is outdated now and contains a lot of missing information. Shortly before the creation of the other TRTF Wiki, Christopher Grieg went inactive. Tyler himself was actually an admin on the wiki. The wiki is considered long dead now, with all admins being inactive. The BFP Films Archive. The BFP Films Archive is an account run by Rowan Colley. It exists on YouTube and Twitter. It has a lot of deleted videos and Twitter posts made by Tyler, as Tyler deleted pretty much every post he made before 2019. Willfaz. Willfaz is a developer who has made 3 TRTF fan games. The first one is Frankfurt Prologue, released in June 2019. It had 3 different game modes, each containing 2 or 3 levels. It was inspired by FNAF Help Wanted. One reenacts a Frankfurt shooting where you have to shoot all of Allison's gang members. Another has you transport meth while avoiding the animatronics. And one takes place in Frankfurt's basement. You have to survive until 7 AM. The game also has multiple endings and mini-games. Willfaz was also going to remake Radzler, but that got cancelled in December 2022. His other TRTF game was TRTF 4 Enhanced, released on the 1st of November 2021. This is vastly different to TRTF 4, with you having to walk to the monitor and locker. There is also a shock mechanism. Willfaz also worked on Jokesy's TRTF 5 revival as a poster designer. Maximum Elevapor. While he hasn't exactly created any FNAF fan games, he has worked on a lot, such as Oblivious Casa, Five Nights at Fang's, Fazbear's Return, and many of Malrat's Fnatic games. He has worked on a lot of TRTF fan games, mostly as a modeler. This includes all the TRTF remakes by Who on Reviews, another TRTF 1 remake Overdone, TRTF Winter Wonderland, TRTF 3 Bonum Iterum, and is also working on Desolation. He's also a whiner and complainer. TRTF Saga Community. The TRTF Saga community is the biggest GameJolt community dedicated to TRTF. It was created by Ace Kid on the 21st of September 2021. It currently has over 1,300 users. The Return to Fucking Freddy's. There was going to be a Return to Fucking Freddy's game made by Mimus. It began development in April 2015, possibly making it the first TRTF fan game to begin development. As its name would suggest, it was going to be a parody of Five Nights at Fuckboys, but with a TRTF spin on it. Unlike Five Nights at Fuckboys, this was going to be made in ClickTeam instead of RPG Maker. The game was cancelled in June 2015 for unknown reasons. There was a finished The Return to Fucking Freddy's game made by Green Fang in March 2016. Sad ending. In TRTF 3, there is a secret third ending you can get called a sad ending. It was believed to have been an unused ending for a long time, but it later turned out that it was actually in the game. This is because of how oddly specific it is to get the ending. You must have the plushies of Freddy, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy, Kitty Fazcat, and a Kitty Fazcat staff, but not Lockjaw or Shadow Lockjaw. After the Night 5 minigame ends, you'll get another minigame. You play as BFP and appear to be in the same room as a backstory minigame. BFP walks to his computer and then dies. Then you get text that says, sad ending. This is likely another instance of Tyler venting. Bad endings in TRTF 5. There was going to be 4 bad endings in TRTF 5. It's unknown how you would have gotten 3 of them. One bad ending has a minigame of Shadow Lockjaw talking to BFP about his depression. Another bad ending has a minigame of a Fredbear plushie telling BFP that he spends too much time with Kitty Fazcat Child and doesn't spend much time with his other friends. At the end, the Kitty Fazcat plush disappears and BFP starts crying. The Golden Freddy and Kitty Fazcat plush might have represented their human counterparts. So there might have been a plot point where the Golden Freddy child makes BFP break up with Kitty Fazcat Child. Another one shows Allison threatening his employees after they enter the room they're not supposed to go to at Fazbear Inc. The employees beg for Allison not to harm them. The employees then hide in 3 torture suits. Then Allison activates the suits and kills them. The last bad ending we actually know how you would have got. If you destroy the torture device and release the torture suits from Fazbear Inc., you'd then get a minigame with BFP next to Allison's hat. Text then pops up that says, please die. Special ending. The special ending in TRTF 5 was going to serve as a good ending. It would have been unlocked by destroying the machine in floor 11. You get a minigame which shows BFP lying on a floor with plushies trying to cheer him up. The plushies are Lockjaw, Freddy, Bonnie, Foxy, Chica, Kitty Fazcat, The Beast, Dog, Vigo, and Buster. The plushies will each disappear one by one after they finish talking. TRTF 5 official remake. In a Q&A video, Tyler said that he was planning on remaking TRTF 5. He planned on bringing back the hybrid animatronics. He did say that he wasn't sure if such thing would ever get made. It was later confirmed by Brian that Tyler said there would never be a TRTF 5 remake and that the plan was cancelled. Welcome to Chaos. Welcome to Chaos is a song by Ross Bogdan from 2014. It was used as a menu theme in TRTF 4. This is another song that will be used in many FNAF fan games after being used in TRTF. Welcome to the Machine. Welcome to the Machine is a song by Pink Floyd released as part of the album Wish You Were Here, released in 1975. The song plays during the ending of Night 6 in TRTF 4. A lyric from the song, Welcome My Son, was also used in a teaser for TRTF 4. Tyler's DeviantArt. Tyler Olstrom had a DeviantArt account where he posted TRTF teasers and artwork. He has over 700 watchers. The account has been active since September 2016. Atlas Emerging. Atlas Emerging, formerly known as Zephyrus, is a developer who made several TRTF fan games. He is best known for Biosouls, A Return to Freddy story, formerly known as The Storyteller's Son, which was released on the 17th of June 2018, making it one of the earliest popular TRTF fan games. It was going to receive several updates. Another game he made is TRTF 2 Expanded, which is a remake of TRTF 2. It was released on the 17th of March 2019. He was also working on another TRTF 2 remake called TRTF 2 Remastered, which ended up getting cancelled. The reason why TRTF 2 Remastered and the updates for Biosource were cancelled is because in late 2020, Atlas was exposed for stealing assets from other developers, most notably Brime. Later though, he was exposed for something far worse. It was revealed that he had CP on his computer. This escalated to a point where he was actually investigated by the FBI. Some say that he was actually in prison for a short period of time. However though, that was never actually confirmed. Despite all this though, he is still online and works as a developer for Hammerscorn, which is led by Will Ryan of DA Games. Gilbert Facility Raid. In September 1943, Allison tried to buy the machine off the Gilbert facility, but was unsuccessful. Allison and his gang then went to Japan, shut off the power in Gilbert's facility and sent toxic gas through the vents. This killed many employees at the facility. He then stole the Radsler antidote and the machine and brought it back to Fazbear Inc. LA. LA is the son of Gilbert who took over as owner of the Gilbert facility after his father's death. He was the one who declined Allison's offer. He was killed in the Gilbert facility raid. LA was later resurrected as a robot, however this robot had murderous intents. Lloyd. Lloyd is a night guard he would have played as in Radsler. He was hired after the Gilbert facility raid to stop any more attacks from Allison happening. The animatronics were hacked into and tried to kill Lloyd. Gilbert facility closure. LA tries to kill Lloyd after Allison hacked him. Lloyd goes to the storage room to hide from LA. He eventually gets up holding a propane tank with the intent on detonating it, sacrificing himself to take down LA. LA then attacked him, making him drop the propane tank. Before LA could kill him though, Lloyd shot the tank with a handgun, causing it to explode, destroying the storage room. Following the incident, Gilbert facility was shut down. Radsler ending. In Radsler, there's going to be an ending cutscene where Gron talks to you, thanking you for saving his family and destroying the machine. He also talks to you about his many regrets. Some have speculated that this dialogue was actually a message from Tyler that's being told to you by Gron, with it starting off by saying it's been a long road since TRTF 1, and just sound like a thank you message. Allison is immortal. After taking a Radsler antidote, it granted Allison 90% immortality, meaning that he can die but ages extremely slowly. It is unknown exactly how old Allison is, but he's shown to be an adult in 1942 and is alive and well in 2035, meaning that he's at least 120 years old by the end of the timeline. The removal of insert characters. There were many inserts in the TRTF series. Tyler was later not happy with that and removed many of them from the story. I've talked about the Kitty Fazcat child being removed from the lore, but in the planned TRTF 5 revival, the Kitty Fazcat animatronic was going to be retconned entirely. There was also an animatronic called BF Puppet, who was a torture suit based off BFP. He was removed likely because BFP was no longer his OC. However, though BFP himself remained in the lore but was reduced to a more minor role. Fang was also retconned from the story, which is due to him not being friends with Marissa anymore, with Fang being her OC. Femjaw was also retconned likely because it's a character that Marissa helped make. It was never said what happened with the other character OCs, but that's probably because it had little importance to begin with. Animatronic Apocalypse. At the end of TRTF 5, the animatronics are released from Fazbear Inc., which starts an animatronic apocalypse. In the story mode ending, they break out after the machine explodes. It's never said what happens during the apocalypse or after. The multiverse. In TRTF Desolation, it is implied that the multiverse exists in the TRTF universe. In one of the endings in Desolation, it shows a portal opening and Allison is about to go in it. This is also something that will be used in The Road That Falls. Desolation endings. There are two endings in Desolation, the good ending and the bad ending. In the bad ending, the player must beat the game normally. At the end, there'll be a cutscene where Carson kills Allison by dismembering his limbs and head with an absurd amount of blood coming out. Now, there is not much information on Desolation, and that includes how to get the good ending, but there is a video that shows a process of getting the good ending by Vardy, so this is just my understanding of what he's supposed to do. To get the good ending, the player must collect 4 tapes. There are 2 tapes in chapter 1 and 1 in each chapter 2 and 3. You can find them during the free roam segments. When you get all the tapes, after beating chapter 3 you get a cutscene where you see Allison at the portal. It doesn't really make sense for Allison's death to be the bad ending, but I guess the good ending is a canon ending. Scrafford King. Scrafford King was the name of a YouTube channel ran by Tyler in late 2015. The most well-known video is Thank You Ponyata Films, which is a compilation of TRTF videos. Vigo's Adventure. Vigo's Adventure is a TRTF fan game made by DW Games. It was released in September 2016. It received many updates until April 2018. The game was based off the Protect Your Son minigame, but as a full game. You play as Gron and fight the animatronics from TRTF. This could be considered the first popular TRTF fan game, but it's more of a TRTF parody game rather than an actual fan game. BFP possesses the puppet. Since TRTF 1, BFP has possessed the puppet. This was foreshadowed in some minigames with BFP replacing Charlie, who while it wasn't confirmed at the time that she possessed the puppet, it was speculated. And with BFP being in a room next to a music box. Unused phone call. In TRTF 1, there is an unused Night 5 phone call, where Vincent tries to convince Mike to work more days, saying that the animatronics are fixed.
Hey Mike, it's me. I understand that's your last day and all, but is there any way I can convince you to stay? If yes, then great. There should be nothing to worry about, now that the animatronics are fixed. Foxy as well. Great news, huh? We have 2 new ones in this place as well. Corporate has been getting on my butt with this whole Vitamin 7 incident. You probably already know what to do. I guess no further talking is needed now. Everything alright? Anyways, I gotta go. See you tomorrow.
Carson's house. Carson's house is Carson Takaliken's house that was going to be in TRTF 5. The game mode in Teaser Game 6 takes place in Carson's living room. The extras menu would have taken place in Carson's house and a TV would have been where you would have viewed the extras. Floor question mark. Floor question mark was going to be the secret final floor in TRTF 5. It is seen in the opening cutscene of the abandoned demo. This is where the torture device is located. The player would have had to access floor question mark to get the special ending. It's unknown how you would have got to floor question mark. TRTF 5 pre-releases. There were 3 pre-releases for TRTF 5, all of which was when it was known as TRTF Rebooted. All of them are early versions of the abandoned demo. They all have earlier versions of Floor 1. In pre-release 1 there is no cutscene at the start. In pre-release 2 there is a different title screen and the cutscene is added. Floor 1 has also been updated, and pre-release 3 had a different menu and added Tortured Lockjaw. The Dreadful Truth remake. In late 2017, Tyler said in a Twitter post that he is working on a remake of The Dreadful Truth. It was going to have a completely different story and was said to be several hundred pages long. With TRTF Chapter 1 being in development at the same time, it's possible this rewrite might have explained the lore of the new series of TRTF, or it could have been for the planned TRTF 5 remake, however this was never confirmed. There was never any updates on this remake, so it was likely cancelled shortly after its announcement. Blake from Volume 2. There is another Blake in the TRTF series. He is part of Allison's gang and worked at Frankbert's as a night guard. You would have played as him in Frankbert's. Due to his name, some have mistaken him for Blake, who you play as in TRTF 3 and 4, although this is a completely different character who is shown to still be alive after Blake's death. Gronon Vigo. Before Gron's name was revealed, many believe that his name was actually Vigo. Many fan games actually refer to him as that, such as Vigo's Adventure and Flappy Vigo, which is obviously the name of the snake animatronic. Some thought that Gron possessed Vigo, or that Gron was actually an animatronic who was converted into a snake. This was debunked in TRTF 4 when it was revealed that Gron possessed Golden Lockjaw, not Vigo, although many still thought his name was Vigo before his name was revealed in The Dreadful Truth. Kriya's Razzler. Razzler actually got back in development in 2022 and is being directed by Tyler and Colin Miller. It's obviously going to be very different to the 2016 Razzler, not being associated with TRTF. Despite that though, it'll still have Gilbert, Gron and Allison. Like every other Kriya game, this game is reportedly in early development and likely won't be released for a long time. Ulstrom Productions. Ulstrom Productions was a development team that briefly existed in early 2017. There was a website put up for it, but that website has since been taken down. Nothing was made by the dev team. BFP is the missing child. It is mentioned in the news article at the start of TRTF 1 that 5 children were murdered and that 1 went missing. In FNAF, the 5 murdered children possessed Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy and Golden Freddy, and in FNAF 2 it was shown that a 6th child was murdered, that being the child who possesses the puppet. So that missing child would be BFP, who possesses the puppet. Even in TRTF 3, when BFP was killed in the Lockjaw animatronic, BFP could have still been reported as missing and not dead. Custom Night in TRTF 3. Night 7 in TRTF 3 is Funtime Fright Mode, which is the hardest night in the game besides Night 8. The night was originally going to be a custom night, but for unknown reasons it was changed to a really hard night. Same locations. Some TRTF locations are actually in the same building, with it being renamed and rethemed. When Goldie Paradina closed, it was changed to Frankbert's Pizza, and then a long time after that, it became Fazbear Fantasyland, which at this point was in a decayed state. And Freddy Fazzy Funtime was the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Before it became Freddy Fazzy Funtime, it was a TV studio for Fazbear Inc. TRTF4 newspaper. In the news article you get when you press new game in TRTF4, it says a lot about TRTF. It reveals that Gron is actually a human, not an animatronic, Lockjaw's real name is Frank Burt, Lockjaw was Tyler's OC, and that Tyler is dating Kitty. Tyler is trans. After Tyler broke up with Kitty, he released a Google Doc. In the Google Doc, he also came out as transgender. However, Toonster later confirmed that Tyler was never actually trans and instead was gender fluid. Tyler later stated that he is a cisgender male and is no longer gender fluid. Text font error. After the TRTF games were taken down, re-uploads had a glitch, mainly with TRTF 3 and 4. This is where certain text would not display. For example, the extras menu in TRTF 4. You have to have the text font used downloaded in order for it to show up. Tyler's real name. Tyler has always been referred to as Tyler or Edmund Ahlstrom. However, Ahlstrom is actually not his last name. His legal last name is Montealegre. His full name is Tyler David Montealegre. Sigrid Rodriguez. Sigrid Rodriguez is a composer who was friends with Tyler before he made TRTF 1. Some of her music was used in the TRTF series, most notably the Come Little Children music box rendition. She is perhaps the only person who is friends with Tyler during the Volume 1 era who is still friends with him now. She currently works for Korea as a composer. Asthma meter. The asthma meter was going to be a mechanism in TRTF 4 and was later going to be used in Razzler. It's unknown what the mechanism would have done, but it's believed that if you use the steam for too long, you would die. If that's true, then it probably got removed because you would never have the steam on for that long. Gron was a night guard. In The Dreadful Truth, it said that Gron worked as a night guard at Gaudi Paradiner. It is speculated that he would have played as him in Gaudi Paradiner mode in TRTF 4, but nothing was ever confirmed. Synthpunk. Synthpunk is a writer and artist who was a writer for TRTF Chapter 1 and also worked on Tychraz Mania. They didn't work on any other games though. TRTF Chapter 1 was a setup. According to Tyler, TRTF Chapter 1 was always going to be The Road That Falls, and was never going to be a TRTF game, and that TRTF Chapter 1 was used to promote the game as less people would be interested if it wasn't a TRTF game. However, though, others who worked on Chapter 1 said this was not true and it was always going to be a TRTF game, and was later changed to an original project. Early offices. There were several offices made for the TRTF games and never made it into the final game. In TRTF 2, there was an alpha and beta build which had a different office. The beta looks very similar to the one used in the full game. The alpha is very different, having different textures and colours. In the trailer for TRTF 2, the office looked different, having a standard FNAF wall. There's also an early office in TRTF 3 shown in the trailer, which had a Freddy head on the desk. Early character models. In the same way there were many early versions of the offices in TRTF, there were many early versions of the animatronics. In TRTF 2, all the characters besides Dog had earlier designs. In the alpha, there were reused renders from FNAF 2, with Kitty, Fazcat and Sugar being the first original models that Tyler made. They've also become a meme amongst the TRTF community. Lockjaw had a different design in TRTF 3, having a bigger nose and mouth. TRTF title meaning. The reason why the Return to Freddy's is called The Return to Freddy's is because in the game you play as Mike Schmidt, who worked at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1994, which in this universe is when FNAF 1 took place. Then, 21 years later, he is going back to work at Freddy's, thus he is returning to Freddy's. Lockjaw is bugged. In TRTF 3, Lockjaw's AI is bugged. He'll start in Cam 10 and will make his way to your office. You have to block him off by sealing the doors. When he gets to your office, he'll run past the screen. When he does that, he is supposed to kill you shortly afterwards like what Springtrap does in FNAF 3. However, Lockjaw won't kill you unless you look towards the right, which is something that you never have to do. Secret Revealer Remastered. Colin Miller's TRTF2 Remastered has Secret Revealer for it, released in July 2020. It works the same as TRTF2 Secret Revealer. You put codes in and get an image. If you enter 1111, you'll get an image of Sugar's endoskeleton. If you enter 1967, you get an image of text that reads The Return to Freddy's Remastered. If you enter 1871, it shows an image of a radio next to a digital clock. If you enter 1975, you'll get an image of a beta version of The Office. If you enter 1986, you'll get an image of a letter which has something to do with Corn of Cots. If you enter 1987, you'll get an image of a desk with photographs on it. If you enter 1988, you'll get an image of a desk with a monitor, Sugarhead and Kitty Fazcat staff. If you enter 1998, you'll get an image of text that reads The Return to Freddy's 3 Remastered. If you enter 2030, you'll get an image of text that reads The Return to Freddy's 4 Remastered. If you enter 2036, you'll get an image of a humanoid animatronic who we don't know the name of. He'll make an appearance in the TRTF story Desolation. If you enter 4240, you'll get an image of a Freddy head next to a fan. If you enter 6660, you'll get an image of Lockjaw and Shadow Lockjaw side to side. Interactive Teaser. Interactive Teaser, also known as IT, was going to be a sequel to TRTF 5, but was cancelled alongside TRTF 5. It was inspired by Silent Hill PT, which is another cancelled horror game. Not much is known about the game, but it was going to have multiple rooms that the player could enter. The game was cancelled very early on in development and nothing was modelled for it. The Lost Ending. The Lost Ending is a short documentary video on TRTF released on the 12th of February 2017, following the cancellation of TRTF 5. It was inspired by a documentary video on Crash Bandicoot by Goodblood. It was the last TRTF media released by Tyler. Mike gets fired. Another inconsistency with the Night 6 newspaper in TRTF 1 is that it mentions that Mike quit his job after being attacked by Vincent. However, after beating Night 7, he gets fired for tampering with the animatronics and for having bad odor. In the dreadful truth, Mike quit his job after hearing Vincent die during a call, so we can accept Mike quitting his job as a canon ending. TRTF 3 Troll Game. On the 1st of April 2015, a troll game for TRTF 3 was released. It had a menu that used an early model of Lockjaw. The game claims to be an alpha test. It is a minigame where you play as a figure. There's these white objects falling from the sky. If you touch them, you die. Pre-releases. TRTF 2-4 had pre-releases before the 4 games were released. TRTF 2's pre-release was just 1 day early and TRTF 4's was 2 days early. However though, TRTF 3's pre-release was actually on the 25th of April 2015, which is considered the full release due to it coming out a lot earlier than the full version. The full game was actually released on the 15th of May 2015. The pre-releases are mostly the same as the full versions, with the only noticeable differences being some different sounds, different jump scares and a few bugs. Lost TRTF 5 builds. There is at least 2 TRTF 5 builds that are lost media. One is just a menu. The menu is very similar to the menu screen in Teaser Game 1. The other build has a lot more to it. The menu shows a section of floor 1. You would have gone a cutscene that was used in the abandoned demo. We can see what the demo looked like thanks to a video by Selvage, who was given access to the demo. The title screen demo doesn't seem to have any videos of it. Very few played these builds, and many who did either left the internet or don't have it anymore. Tyler had a crush on Marissa. Sometime before his breakup with Kitty, Tyler confessed to Marissa that he had feelings for her. For context, Marissa is transgender and didn't come out until after this happened. Marissa didn't have feelings for Tyler though. Tyler confessed his love in the form of a drawing he made of Ty. TRTF 2 game modes. In TRTF 2 major updates, there would have been 2 added game modes. Nightmare mode, also known as Withered mode, that would have been accessed in a custom night by setting Freddy, Bonnie and Chica to 6, spelling out 666. It would have had Nightmare Lockjaw as the only active enemy. The location would have had a nightmarish look to it. You would have had to survive against him by wearing the mask. The other mode was Dread mode. You would have played as Lockjaw and had to avoid the goal animatronics. This mode would have taken place in BFP's head, while getting spring lock inside of Lockjaw. Not much else is known about it. Childish Game. Childish Game is a music box song by Sigrid Rodriguez. It plays during the inaccessible Gron minigame in TRTF 4. This is actually an original song made for the game and the only original song to be in a released TRTF game, not including the ambiences, which is ironic since a minigame where the song plays is not accessible in-game due to a bug. Kenny the Stallion. Kenny the Stallion is a former developer who worked on Tanner Feline's TRTF 5. Outside of TRTF, he made the Old Place of Fun series. There was 2 games in this series and there was going to be a 3rd game. Both the games are now lost. Ferguson the Shuffler. Ferguson the Shuffler was friends with Tyler and was co-writer for Interactive Teaser and had minor involvement with TRTF 3, 4 and 5. He has worked on a lot of other FNAF fan games, such as Pop Goes, Insanity, Five Nights at Teeler's and Dormitabus. He also worked on his own game Elevate, which ended up getting cancelled. Kidyu the Man. Kidyu the Man is a former developer who worked on TRTF 2 as a modeler and voiced Chun in TRTF 3. He also made Five Nights at Freddy's Fredbear, which had minor assistance from Tyler. Shane the Barbarian. Shane the Barbarian is a former developer who worked on the major updates for TRTF 2 and 3. During the major updates era, he was the lead developer of Frankbirds, but cancelled the game early on in development. Wolf. Wolf, also known as Wolf the Human, is a former developer known for making the Five Nights at Freddy's A Child's Pass series. He was one of the many people who worked on TRTF 5. He also wants to make his own version of TRTF 5, which began development in May of 2015. It was cancelled in September 2015 and an unfinished build was released. Grammar Wizard. Grammar Wizard was one of the many people who worked on TRTF 5. He worked on both the Click Team and Unreal version. He was one of the writers for the story. Outside of TRTF, he worked on Tears a Different Chapter and Elevate. Toy animatronics. The toy animatronics from FNAF 2 were briefly part of TRTF. In the Joy of Creation minigame in TRTF 3, the animatronics look noticeably different, looking a lot more like the toy animatronics than the normal ones. Aside from this minigame, the toy animatronics were never mentioned again at any point in the series. They were going to appear in TRTF 5 as hybrid animatronics, but when the hybrids were scrapped, they didn't get converted into tortured animatronics. FUHDWXUH. FUHDWXUH, also known as Creature, is a shadow entity who can take the form of other animatronics. They would have appeared in minigames in TRTF 5. Only one minigame that has them in it was made. Tortured Ice Cream Man. Tortured Ice Cream Man is a humanoid torture suit who is going to be in TRTF 5. He's based off a rumoured animatronic who is said to appear in FNAF 3. The model was unseen for a long time before being found by Mike D and Sunken Studios. Tortured Nightbird. Tortured Nightbird is a hybrid torture suit who's going to be in TRTF 5. He's made up of several torture animatronic parts. He was made by Mechless, who later made the Project Readjusted series. Tortured Saber. Tortured Saber is a werewolf tortured suit who's going to be in TRTF 5. He was also going to appear in Bio Ninja's TRTF 5. His model in the original TRTF 5 was never actually finished. He was going to be grey but later became red. Tortured Teela. Tortured Teela is a dragon torture suit. He is a variant of a titular animatronic from Five Nights at Teela's made by Nitru. The series originally had a Minecraft aesthetic to it, but in its cancelled 6 installments, Teela's a different chapter, Teela had a 3D model made for him. Teela was cut from TRTF 5 before it was cancelled. In August 2021, Teela Land was released, which was a very popular FNAF fan game. The Slaughter Crew. The employees killed in the torture suits while trying to hide from Allison became the Slaughter Crew. These animatronics were the Beast, Buster, and Saber. They would have been enemies on floor 9. Interestingly, Buster was originally going to be named Slaughter. Spiraled animatronics. The spiraled animatronics were going to be variants that would have appeared in TRTF Chapter 1. They're still going to appear in The Road That Falls. The only character that has been made so far is Spiral Bonnie, who won't actually be called Bonnie in the full game due to copyright. At some point, the animatronics will form into an entity known as the Cosmic Wendigo. Mr. Fredbear. Mr. Fredbear is a character from Volume 1. He's the CEO of Fazbear Entertainment who owned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, Frank Burt's Pizza, and Fredbear's Family Diner. It was theorized that he had an involvement in Vincent's murders, some even saying that he ordered Vincent to kill. His character was retconned and was replaced with Allison, and Vincent was the owner of Fredbear's Family Diner and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in The Dreadful Truth. Freddy Emporium. Freddy Emporium is the restaurant that TRTF Chapter 1 takes place. Unlike other locations, this isn't a pizzeria. It would have served tacos and waffles. It would have been owned by Fazbear Inc. A few rooms were made before the game was cancelled. James Calfron. James Calfron is a night guard you would have played as in TRTF Chapter 1. He worked at Freddy Emporium. The only thing we know about him is that he is traumatized from something that happened a long time ago, but we don't know what that was. He was apparently going to be the main character of the new TRTF series following Chapter 1, but no further games began development. Adventure Andy. Adventure Andy is based off a fan-made animatronic named Andy the Artist, created by Roxas 13 Keys, who was going to voice Adventure Andy in TRTF 5. There was also plans for a torture variant of him, but no model was made. Wendy Hall and Terry White. Wendy Hall and Terry White are two characters who were supposed to appear in TRTF 2 Remastered. Nothing is known about them as they were barely written when the game was cancelled. The only thing we know about Wendy Hall is that her name was originally going to be Amber Rose, but was changed to Wendy Hall. Sparta remixes. In 2006, there was a remix of the iconic line "This is Sparta" from the movie 300, which came out the same year. This spawned a whole remix genre of Sparta remixes, which had the same melody but with something else playing over the music instead of This is Sparta. There have been many Sparta remixes made of FNAF and its fan games. There have been several ones made of TRTF. TRTF Fantasyland server. TRTF Fantasyland is another Discord server dedicated to TRTF. It was created in October 2023 by Aurel, who still owns the server. It is the most active TRTF Discord server and the second biggest, having over 300 users. TRTF Developers Interviews. On the 31st of October 2024, Anything Else did a video interviewing Toonster and Marissa about TRTF. Toonster has been interviewed 2 other times. One was by The Next Genius in June 2023, and the other time was by Jester Slumber for the 10th anniversary of TRTF 1. TRTF Expanded Edition. TRTF Expanded Edition is a TRTF fan game made by 2000 Studios. It was released on the 23rd of December 2023 on the 9th anniversary of TRTF 1. It mainly focused on remaking the Unreal version of TRTF 5, but also implemented elements from other TRTF games. It also remade Goldie Paradina mode. FNAF 3 2014. FNAF 3 2014 is a remake of TRTF 1 made by Blocks. The game is an ARG acting as a found early version of the official FNAF 3. It was released on the 2nd of March 2025 on the 10th anniversary of FNAF 3. In this ARG, Tyler Ahlstrom, who was given early access to FNAF 3, released the early version of FNAF 3 he was sent. Unlike other TRTF 1 remakes, this had very similar visuals to TRTF 1, with the animatronic models looking very similar to their FNAF 2 counterparts. TRTF 2 Reworked. TRTF 2 Reworked is a recode of TRTF 2 by It's Me No One. It was released in December 2021. It removed many bugs from the original game, and Lockjaw and Spring Bonnie are now active threats. It has received many updates, with its most recent one being from June 2025. Anniversary events. There have been events celebrating the anniversaries of TRTF. This became a common celebration amongst TRTF fans on its 5th anniversary in 2019, with an annual event being hosted in the TRTF Saga server. A lot of developers try to get a TRTF fan game released on its anniversary. With the decline of the Saga server's popularity, the most popular 10th anniversary event was hosted in Fantasyland, who will also be hosting the 11th anniversary event. There Exists. There Exists is a game that's being made by Korea. It was announced in 2022. It is the only Korea game in development that was never intended on being a TRTF game. Despite having one of the shorter developments, it seems to have had more stuff made for it than any other Korea game. Dryon Inferno. Dryon Inferno, also known as Dragonline, is a developer and former YouTuber. He is best known for his videos of FNAF songs with different pitches made to fit certain animatronics, as if they were singing it. He has also made FNAF fangame videos, and 2 videos on TRTF that are well known within the community. The first was a review of TRTF 2 Rebuilt, and the other is a remix melody of various songs used in the TRTF series. He also made a recode of TRTF 3 titled TRTF 3 Legendary Edition, which was released in August 2022. 1996 Incident. The 1996 incident was going to be an event that had relevance to TRTF Chapter 1. As the name suggests, it would have taken place in 1996, although nothing is known about what happened in the event. Some say that it involved James Calfron due to him having trauma. Wilson Galleria. Wilson Galleria is where TRTF 2 Remastered was going to take place. Before Korea got involved, it was going to take place at Fredbear's Family Diner. Only the office and 2 rooms are made for it. TRTF 5 Skype Group. Tyler met most of his friends from Skype. When TRTF 5 was in development, there was a Skype group for it. This is where a lot of the unreleased content for the game was later found and released. TRTF Q&A. TRTF Q&A was a Q&A that Tyler did on the 27th of December 2017 in celebration of the series' 3rd anniversary. The video was going to come out on the 3rd anniversary but was delayed by 4 days. This is where he answered a lot of questions about TRTF, some of which have been featured on this Iceberg. The Escape to Freddy's. The Escape to Freddy's is what some misremember TRTF 1 being called. This is because before the game's name was changed, Yutum called the game The Escape to Freddy's, which led to some thinking that the game was actually called The Escape to Freddy's. He likely did this to stop people from thinking that the game was the official FNAF 3. There was an RPG game called Escape from Freddy's that Yutum played which came out a week earlier. TRTF 2 Remastered The Wise Offspring. There is an attempt at finishing Colin Miller's TRTF 2 Remastered. It's being made by The Wise Offspring, who is best known for making Dormit Abyss Remastered. It will be a visually faithful adaptation, but due to the game being cancelled early on in development, it'll probably be different to what the game was going to be like. It's been in development for over a year now, but there are updates being posted every few weeks. Cheat ending. In TRTF 5, if you press CD Plus on the keyboard, you'll unlock the cheat ending, with CD Plus being a cheat code in FNAF 1 and 2. When you press CD Plus, you'll get an 8-bit image of BFP's fedora, and then text pops up that says cheat ending. The photograph ending. According to Grammar Wizard, there would have been a secret ending in TRTF 5, where the player would have went through a wall. This would have led to a room where you would have seen photographs on the wall. One of the photos was of an unknown developer. This would have been a cursed ending. After getting the ending, your game would crash, and when reopening the game, you'd be forced to reset your progress. The Games Factory. The Games Factory is a game engine made by ClickTeam. This was intended for people who do not know how to code and a step below ClickTeam Fusion. This is actually what Tyler used to make TRTF 1. The rest of the games were made using ClickTeam. Menu themes. I've talked about the menus for TRTF 4 and Teaser Game 1, but I haven't talked about the rest of the menu themes though. In TRTF 1, it's just a FNAF 2 menu. In TRTF 2's alpha, it's a higher pitched FNAF 2 menu theme. In TRTF 2's beta, it is a song called A Storm Brews by Shockwave Sound. In the full version of TRTF 2, it was a FNAF 2 menu theme but reversed. In the pre-release for TRTF 3, it was a FNAF 3 Troll Edition menu theme, which is another menu theme that was used in a lot of other FNAF fan games after being used in TRTF. In the full version of TRTF 3 is a slowed down version of FNAF 2 and 3's menu theme. In TRTF 5, the menu would have been a slowed down version of Their Standing, which was the music used in FNAF 3's menu but was cut shorter. Jump scare sounds. When TRTF 1 was called FNAF 3 Fan Made, the jump scare sound was from a fan made FNAF 3 trailer by Golden Lane Studios. When it was renamed to The Return to Freddy's, it had the FNAF 2 jump scare sound. In TRTF 3, it was a lower pitched mix of the jump scare sound from FNAF 1 and 2. In TRTF 4, it was a mix of several FNAF fan game jump scare sounds. I'm not sure where TRTF 2 and 5's jump scare sounds originated from, but they each contain 2 jump scare sounds. TRTF 2 has a FNAF 3 jump scare sound, and TRTF 5 has a FNAF 4 jump scare sound. Reset data jump scare. In TRTF 3, if you reset your data, the rare screen of Lockjaw will flash on your screen through different images. When you reload the game, your data will be lost. Amnesia. Amnesia is a survival horror game series made by the Chinese Room. There were 4 games released from 2010 till 2023, those being The Dark Descent, Machine for Pigs, Rebirth, and The Bunker. They were a big inspiration for TRTF 5, both in the location and the story. Machine for Pigs was the game that inspired TRTF 5 the most, with many sounds being used from the game. Charles's suicide. On the 20th of December 1943, Charles hangs himself. Days prior to his suicide, he was involved in the car accident that killed his mum, and on Christmas Day, Gron said that he'll be leaving him for a long time. Gron came back to his house to find that Charles hung himself, with a suicide note saying, "I'm sorry, Daddy." Do not access. Do Not Access is the name of the robot that Alea was resurrected as. He was going to be an enemy in Razzler as well. It was never modelled but was said to be a humanoid made up of pipes, tubes and wires, and would have had Razzler going through him, which keeps him alive. Jackson's death. In around 1985, Allison visited Jackson to tell him about his biological father. As Allison was talking to Jackson, he shoots him in the head, killing him instantly. This was only described in The Dreadful Truth. Jefferson. Jefferson is a character in The Dreadful Truth. He worked as a night guard at Fredbear's Family Diner before Corn of Cots. He was fired by Vincent for slacking off like playing on the arcades during his shift. Lockjaw SFM model. There was a Lockjaw SFM model ported by an unknown user. This model was used in many SFM animations. There have been more SFM models made for TRTF when the series gained a cult following. Nathan. Nathan is a character in The Dreadful Truth. He worked as a day shift guard at Fredbear's Family Diner. He is only in one scene where he puts up a now hiring sign up and tells Corn of Cots how to apply for a job as a night guard. TRTF 5 Troll Edition. TRTF 5 Troll Edition was made by Toonster. It was released in 2017. It starts off as a hand-drawn version of TRTF 5, then after getting jump scared you'll get a rickroll with text popping up criticising the TRTF community. This game is actually somewhat of a virus as a window can't be closed manually and will continuously shake your cursor. I'd recommend having Task Manager open if you want to check this out for yourself. TRTF characters' ages. Some of the ages for the TRTF characters have been roughly confirmed. We know that Allison is over 120, but his exact age is unknown. Many fans think that he's around 140. Despite being depicted as a child, BFP is actually 16, and Kitty Fazcat Child is said to be around the same age. Corn of Cots was going to be 19 in the major updates, but the major updates aren't really considered canon. Charles is said to be about 14 at the time of his death. Gron's age is unknown, but he's at least in his mid-30s at the time of his death, given the age of his children. Jackson is said to be around 8 at the time of Gron's death in 1944, meaning that he's around 50 at the time of his death. Blake and the Phone Buddies were in their late teens in 2015 when they opened Fazbear Fantasyland, so by the end of the story, they're likely in their late 30s, and Blake would have been in his early 30s at the time of his death. There are other characters in the series who we can guess their age, but we don't have enough of a concrete answer. Animator Guy. Animator Guy was a developer who worked on TRTF Desolation. Outside of TRTF, he made FNAF fan game series The Legend of Wolfies and The Escape from Freddy's. Sadly, in 2021, Animator Guy passed away. This led to the cancellation of FNAF Multiplayer, which he was co-developer alongside Jay Plays. Hybrid device. This is an early version of Torture Device, who appears in the opening cutscene of the abandoned demo and the pre-releases. It's unknown what the name of the Torture Device was originally going to be. Some call them the Hybrid Device, swapping out the counterparts. Another nickname is the Torture. Typical Eclipse. Typical Eclipse is a former YouTuber who made one of the earliest TRTF video essays. It was released in 2020. In 2023, Typical Eclipse deleted his channel due to it causing him anxiety. The TRTF video he made was re-uploaded by Cat Miner on the 9th of December 2023. TRTF4 exploits. TRTF4 has a lot of glitches and can be beaten entirely by using exploits. The most well-known one is that if you get out of the locker when Bonnie appears in the office, she'll just freeze and you won't die. There are other exploits as well. No one can kill you whilst using the steam besides Bonnie. However, if you use it on Sally, it'll trigger her jump scare but she won't kill you. This will make you invincible and no one can kill you unless you run out of power. New Life for TRTF Conclusion. New Life for TRTF Conclusion, formerly known as TRTF Mockingbird, was made by Mr. Arkham. It began development in 2021. It was going to be a remake of TRTF Chapter 1. It was originally going to be a remake of The Road That Falls, however though Tyler intervened as the game was still being worked on. A trailer was released as part of the Fan Game Direct event in November 2022. The game was cancelled in January 2024 after Mr. Arkham left the internet. The Road That Falls 5. This is probably the least well-known Korea game, as many have confused it with The Road That Falls, but there is actually another Korea game in the works called The Road That Falls 5. We don't know much about it, but it's apparently going to be a sequel to The Road That Falls, which begs the question, why is it called The Road That Falls 5 instead of 2? Some theorize that The Road That Falls will have 4 chapters, and the 5th chapter will be a separate game. Another theory suggests that it will be the 5th game released, and the other Korea games are canon to The Road That Falls. Find Me. Find Me is an application released in December 2015. It was released as a way to explain the TRTF lore when TRTF 5 was originally cancelled. It contained 35 things to view for TRTF 5, most of them are minigames, and I'm going to go over all of them. This will be a very long segment, so skip ahead if you're not interested. The first one is the opening of the TRTF 5 demos, where Allison talks to you. The second one is the opening of the abandoned demo, where you see Torch Device. The third one is a minigame which shows a story mode ending where BFP hangs himself. The fourth one is a minigame which shows a die alone ending, where the kids disappear. The fifth one is a minigame which shows a bad ending where you play as BFP and talk to Shadow Lockjaw. The sixth one is a minigame which shows a cheat ending. The seventh one is a minigame which shows a bad ending where you play as BFP and talk to a Fredbear plush. The eighth one is a minigame which shows a special ending. The ninth one is something I've actually not talked about yet. It's a cutscene which shows a perspective of Blake in a golden kitty suit at Freddy Fazzy Funtime. The cutscene doesn't end until you press escape. The 10th one shows an unused part of Nightmare Mode seen in Teaser Game 6. It opens by saying, "Let's play a game." Then you're in Carson's house. You can only look around the room and can't interact with anything. The 11th one is the same as the 10th one, only without saying, "Let's play a game" at the start. The 12th one shows a hidden bunker minigame from Teaser Game 6. The 13th one is a minigame called After BFP Death. You play as Kitty Fazcatchild. Next to you is Vincent watching BFP get spring-locked. When Kitty Fazcatchild walks in, Vincent runs off. She then starts crying. The 14th one shows a phone guy death minigame from Teaser Game 6. The 15th minigame shows a father and son minigame from Teaser Game 6. The 16th one is a minigame called Happy Fun Times. You play as the Beast. You're in a room with 3 crying children. On the next screen you see Allison with Kitty Fazcatchild and BFP is crying. Then you go back to the last screen and then come back, you'll find Gron comforting BFP. When you touch them, the minigame ends. The 17th one is a minigame called December 24th. You play as Gron and you're at his house. You see Charles playing with a Lockjaw toy next to a Christmas tree, with presents under it. Gron gives Charles a gift. Charles opens it and finds it's a fedora. The 18th one is a minigame called December 25th. You play as Charles and are in the same room as December 24th. The presents under the tree have now been opened. On the floor there is a note from Gron telling Charles that he has left and won't be back for a long time. If you touch one of the presents under the tree, the minigame ends. The 19th one is a minigame called Truth. You play as tortured Lockjaw. You're in a room with 6 dead children. Behind one of the clouds is Allison watching you. He then walks in on Kitty Fazcatchild, comforting a crying BFP. If you go back to the other screen and then come back, you'll see BFP crying next to a Lockjaw toy. You can then go to another screen which has a door. Where you go through the door, the minigame ends. The 20th one is a minigame called The Past. In the minigame you play as Charles, who's in a room with 3 kids in front of a stage with Lockjaw and Kitty Fazcat. In the next screen you'll see Gron in the room before he quickly closes the blinds. In the room you can see a Lockjaw plush. In the next screen you'll see a door. When you go through the door, the minigame ends. The 21st one is a minigame that I don't know the name of. You once again play as Charles. You're in a dark room with a Lockjaw suit and Shadow Lockjaw. In the room, the Lockjaw toy is following you. There's pieces of Kitty Fazcat on the floor. In the last screen you'll see Golden Lockjaw with Gron inside. The second one is another minigame that I don't know the name of. You yet again play as Charles. You're in a room with text flashing that says, "It's me." There's a Lockjaw toy following you again. In the next screen, Kitty Fazcat is there and there's a kid running around. In the next screen you'll see Gron on the floor laughing with 3 kids next to a stage with Freddy, Bonnie and Chica. When you touch Gron, you put a Golden Lockjaw head on him. He then starts bleeding out. The minigame ends with a Golden Lockjaw jump scare. The 23rd one is a minigame called December 23rd. You play as Gron, who is in his house. You leave the house and get in the car with Linda, Charles and Jackson. Shortly after you start driving, you are hit by a car driven by Allison. Then the minigame ends. The 24th one is a Never Happy minigame from Teaser Game 6. The 25th one is a minigame called Dark Secrets. You play as a ghost BFP who's at Fazbear Inc. You see Allison watching 3 employees crying. There's 2 conveyor belts, one moving dismembered body parts and one moving animatronic parts. The minigame ends when BFP goes to the door. The 26th one is a minigame called Machine is Turned On. You play as Charles and walk around a street. In the first screen you get an image of Shadow Lockjaw. In the next screen there's houses that have been damaged. There's also 2 kids who are scared. One house has "Help Us" written in blood. In the next screen there's a house with "Save Me" written in blood. You finish the minigame by walking to a door at the start. The 27th one is a minigame called Choose Wisely. You play as BFP and walk around Fredbear's family diner. You can see kids wearing animatronic masks of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica and Foxy. This minigame was never finished, so it can't be completed. There was going to be a Gron and Vincent sprite, so that would have likely had something to do with it. The 28th one is the credits that would have appeared at the end of TRTF 5. The 29th one is an ending screen that appears after the credits. The 30th one is also credits, but it has different music. Supposedly this one would play if you got the special ending. The 31st one is also just the ending screen that you got after the credits. The 32nd one is another variation of the credits. This time it shows images of the TRTF games and plays a different song. This is likely a later version of the credits for TRTF 5. The 33rd one is again the ending screen that you would have got after the credits. This has an image of the outside of Fazbear Inc. The 34th one is a menu screen for Goldie Paradina mode. You can't access anything though. And lastly, the 35th one is the box. In the hub of Find Me, there is a box similar to the one in FNAF 4. Just like FNAF 4, you can't open the box. This would have likely appeared in TRTF 5, perhaps at the end. It's unknown if you would have been able to open the box in TRTF 5 and what would have been in it. And after all these years, I doubt Tyler still remembers. After Blake Death minigame. After Blake Death is an unused minigame meant for pre-release 1 for TRTF 5. For a long time it was thought that the minigame was never coded, until it was discovered in the MFAs by X-Spramp. It has you play as Golden Lockjaw who just walks around Freddy Fazzy Funtime. There are body parts scattered around. You can't actually finish the minigame as it was never complete. Allison is a paedophile. It has been speculated that Allison is a paedophile. The evidence that people point to is that in the Happy Fun Times minigame, he is seen flirting with the Kitty Fazcat child, who is a minor. However, though, due to this being an old minigame made way before the Dreadful Truth was written, this is not considered canon anymore. Despite Allison being a mass murderer, it hasn't been confirmed that he has ever actually killed a child, so there isn't much evidence to support the claim anymore. Night Zero. Night Zero, also known as Night 9, is a secret night that can be accessed in TRTF 3 and 4. It plays out similar to Night 8 in FNAF 1 and 2, where your game will crash if you view the monitor. You can only access the nights by editing the save data. Legend. Legend is what many refer to Shadow Lockjaw as before his name was revealed, as in a custom night of TRTF 2, his name is just Dots. Some also called him Dark BFP. Before his name reveal, one of Tyler's friends falsely confirmed that his name was Shadow Golden Lockjaw. When Lockjaw's name was revealed, it became apparent that Legend is Shadow Lockjaw. Torture Device is not an animatronic. Despite his appearance resembling Torture Lockjaw, Tyler has confirmed that Torture Device is not an animatronic. He is a torture suit, but not an animatronic. What he meant by this is a torture device does not have the same parts as other torture animatronics and is incapable of moving. This was changed in Desolation though, and a torture device is an active threat. Vincent is in the opening cutscene. The opening cutscene of TRTF 1 shows a phone guy getting attacked by Golden Freddy. This later is shown again in the death minigame while it plays a Night 4 phone call from FNAF 1. Despite the different voice actor, this shows a previous attack that Vincent endured whilst he was on the phone, which he survived. This was later retconned from the story. Power outage in TRTF 3. In TRTF 3 there is an image of the office with most of the lights turned off. This means that there might have been a power mechanism and the darkened office image was a power outage. It's unknown if this is true though. Kitty Fazcat child's name. According to a post made by Kitty Fazcat in January 2024, the name of the Kitty Fazcat child is Layla. This is the only source that claims this, and with Kitty Fazcat not wanting to be affiliated with TRTF anymore, has led fans to question whether or not this is actually true. Captain Frankie and his Scurvy Crew. Captain Frankie and his Scurvy Crew is a TV series owned by Fazbear Inc. It was made in the studio that became Freddy Fazzy Funtime. Nothing is known about the show, but it's believed that Frankie is an alias of Frankbert. Trailer builds. In TRTF 2 and 3, there were different builds of the game to what was used in the demos and full game. These builds were never released to the public and are considered lost media. Get Happy. Get Happy is an animation that Tyler was working on in 2016. It would have featured Lockjaw, Kitty Fazcat, and Sugar. The animation would have used a song from 1930, Get Happy, by Ted Koehler and Howard Arlen. The song was also going to be used in Frankbert's. The animation was never complete and nothing else is known about what it would have been about. TRTF 4 was leaked. On the 27th of May 2015, 2 days before its release, TRTF 4 was leaked multiple times, which led to it being released early. The game was leaked by testers Skrillarex, Scribby, and Vadafo. It's unknown why they leaked the game. TRTF 1 trailer. I've talked about the trailers released for the TRTF games, however I haven't mentioned a TRTF 1 trailer. When the game was still called FNAF 3 Fan Made, there was a trailer released for the game. When the game was renamed to The Return to Freddy's, the trailer was deleted from YouTube. The trailer is now completely lost, no images or clips have survived. According to those who saw the trailer, it didn't show gameplay footage of the game, and mostly showed Gmod gameplay. Some say that the trailer wasn't even original and was just Gold Lane Studios' FNAF 3 trailer. We will only know what the trailer truly was like if the trailer resurfaces. Unreleased TRTF 5 demo. Allegedly there was a now lost demo for TRTF 5, which is speculated to have taken place at floor 7. There isn't much evidence to back this claim up. This rumour began because of an unused title screen, which showed Lockjaw, Kitty Fazcat, and the Beast. This has led some to believe that there was an unreleased demo for the game which used that title screen. Nothing has ever been confirmed. Partially lost teaser. One bizarre case of lost media is a teaser for TRTF 4 titled He Will Come Back. The only surviving image of this teaser is a brightened up image and a cropped image that only shows Lockjaw's head. The original image is actually lost, but somehow these edited versions are still available. Unknown hybrid animatronics. There were 3 hybrid animatronics who were going to appear in TRTF 5 when it was TRTF remastered. These animatronics were never named or modelled. One of them is referred to as Machinery Animatronic. It would have resembled a machine more than an animatronic. It would have had 8 eyes and spikes coming out. Another one is referred to as Sewer Animatronic. It would have had mold and fungus growing out of him and would have had 8 arms. And the other one is referred to as Storage Room Animatronic. There is nothing known about what this animatronic was going to look like. None of these characters were repurposed into torture animatronics. Rebel Razor. Rebel Razor is a former developer who made the Rise of Freddy series, which were made from 2015 until 2016. He was a controversial figure in the TRTF community during the time he was active. He is best known for his OC, Instatrap. Rebel Razor commissioned a 3D model of the character to Hero Golem, which was used in his games. The model looked identical to Lockjaw, but he claimed it was a completely original model and would get mad when people said it looked like Lockjaw. He also faked his death and stole from other artists. He left the internet after Devin Manning made an expose video on him. Tortured Butcher Boy. Tortured Butcher Boy was going to be a torture suit in TRTF 5. He was never modelled but was apparently going to be covered in blood or would have possessed a butcher knife. Nothing else is known about him. Alyssa. It has been confirmed by Brian that in the story of Desolation, Allison actually has a wife. Nothing is known about their relationship or what the wife's name is. In a teaser for The Road That Falls 5, many names can be seen which make up the game's logo. One of the names is Alyssa. Due to it being a similar name, this has been speculated to be the name of Allison's wife, but we don't know yet. TRTF 4 Simulator. Not to be confused with Fabio 3's TRTF Simulator games, this TRTF 4 Simulator is different. It was supposedly made by DM Games. There is little to no information known about this game. Its release date is unknown, but the demo was played by Uatom on the 6th of July 2015. This could be the first TRTF fan game. However though, the game is now lost. It's unknown if the full version was ever released, and Uatom's video might be the only proof of the game's existence, and due to a copyright claim, there is no in-game audio heard in the video. Co-op mode in TRTF 3. There was going to be an update for TRTF 3 that would have added a co-op mode. Nothing was revealed about this game mode, but it's thought that one would control the animatronics and the other would control the player. This update never came out, likely because Tyler shifted his focus towards TRTF 4. Vincent is over 100. I went through the TRTF characters' estimate ages, but I didn't mention Vincent's age, and it is actually canon that Vincent is over 100 years old at the time of his death. It was said that Vincent was a childhood friend of Gron, who was at least in his mid-30s at the time of his death, but could be a lot older than that. Vincent is around the same age as Gron, meaning that he would have been born in the late 1900s or earlier. This means that he would have been over 100 years old in 2015. Back from the Past. Back from the Past is a TRTF song supposedly made by Solus Marauder. It was released sometime in 2015. The original upload was deleted in 2021. The original upload also had a music video which is now lost. Luckily though, the song can still be heard today. The oldest re-upload is a Spanish subtitled version from January 2016, uploaded by Toy Bonnie Reviews. It was believed that the vocals were sampled from a song called The Sun is Shining Bright by Moonbridge. However, it was later discovered that the song's vocals were actually taken from an unknown vocal pack. Lockjaw spitting blood. In the trailer for TRTF 3, there would have been a sequence where blood would have spurted out of Lockjaw's mouth, presumably showing BFP getting spring-locked. This was never shown in any trailer though. 6 Horrors was canon to TRTF. While many characters from other FNAF fan games are going to appear in TRTF 5, they weren't considered canon to one another, except for 6 Horrors. At one point, the 6 Horrors games were actually considered canon to TRTF. This goes beyond 6 Horrors Midway. This didn't affect the story of TRTF though, with Toonybot only making an appearance. FNAC was made because of TRTF. Many believe that the reason why Five Nights at Candy's was ever made is because of TRTF, to get back at Tyler for reusing Candy the Cat, or because Candy became more well known after appearing in TRTF, which prompted Emil to make a game about him. However though, Emil denies that TRTF had any influence on Five Nights at Candy's, and it would have probably made it even if TRTF didn't reuse Candy. TRTF 4 original release date. I mentioned earlier that TRTF 4 was released early after it got leaked. It was going to come out in June 2015, but the game was pretty much finished when it got leaked. That does beg the question if it would have been released in May if it wasn't leaked. However though, the June 2015 release date was actually an updated release date, as it was originally going to come out on the 25th of December 2015, which certainly raises speculations over if the game was originally going to have much more content to it. TRTF movie. In one of the news articles in the newspaper at the start of TRTF 4, it said that a fan of TRTF, whose name was not revealed, got permission off Tyler to make an official TRTF movie. Nothing is known about the movie and it was never made. This was likely just an idea that didn't go anywhere since there is no further information. TRTF 4 is Tyler's least favourite game. TRTF 4 is often considered the best TRTF game, however Tyler once said that it's actually his least favourite TRTF game. This is possibly due to the fact that the game was rushed, being made in just 3 weeks, and the final product might not have been what Tyler visioned it to be like. TRTF 5 joke teaser. A joke teaser was posted on Sabani Games' website a few days after TRTF 4 was released. This showed an unknown animatronic next to letters spelling out 5. When this teaser was posted, TRTF 5 was going to be called TRTF Remastered, so this probably wasn't actually a serious teaser and was just saying a 5th installment was coming out as a joke. TRTF 5 Microsoft Store. When TRTF 5 was called TRTF Remastered, it was actually going to come out on the Microsoft Store, with a teaser saying the game is coming out on the 29th of July on Microsoft Store. This obviously would have never gotten released on Microsoft Store, but it's funny how Tyler once planned for it to be released there. This teaser also implies that TRTF 5 was intended to come out on the 29th of July, and I think that this teaser was posted in July of 2015, so when this teaser was posted, TRTF 5 was supposed to come out in a few weeks. TRTF merchandise. There was once a website called BFP Gamers Merchandise, which actually sold TRTF merchandise. This included t-shirts, phone cases, and mugs. The website no longer exists, but can be viewed using the Internet Archive. It's unknown if anyone out there still owns merchandise that they brought off the website, but if someone does, then they own something very valuable. Silent Hill. Tyler was a huge fan of Silent Hill during the time he made TRTF, as interactive teaser was inspired by a cancelled Silent Hill game, PT. Tyler also planned on making an unofficial remake of PT, but like the original game, it was cancelled. Novacraft. Novacraft is a name that Tyler went under before he went by BFP Films. It was also the name of a Minecraft server that he had in 2015. TRTF VK. VK is a Russian social media site that has perhaps the biggest TRTF community on the internet. The community, TRTF Retro, has almost 3,000 followers. It was created on the 5th of May 2017 by Iskander Karamov. A lot of TRTF lost media was found in this VK community. Allison's kill count. Allison has been responsible for a lot of deaths throughout the series. His exact kill count is unknown. In The Dreadful Truth, he kills 4 people, the Slaughter Crew employees and Jackson. He is responsible for the death of Linda and LA. However, he is believed to be responsible for over 1,000 deaths in total. Countless died in the Gilbert facility raid, and even more employees at Fazbear Inc. were killed over the course of about 90 years. Brime's Frankberts. Brime was going to make a remake of Frankberts. There was a Word document made public which listed ideas that he had for the game. Frankberts is located in Miami. You would have played as Carson, who is infiltrating Allison's gang at Frankberts by disguising as a technician. It would have had unique gameplay that involved you trying not to be seen by guests at Frankberts. There would have been 2 endings to the game. One is where Carson gets caught and is locked up in a room that is described as being so white that it would blind anyone within mere seconds. The other ending would have had a part where you shoot up the place. You also would have had to kill innocents who witnessed the shooting. As far as my knowledge goes, the game was only in its concept stage and nothing was ever actually made for it. With Brian being part of Korea, this game could have potentially become an official remake of Frankberts, but I don't know if that was planned. BFP Man. BFP Man is a joke character created by Tyler. It is an image of Batman with Tyler's face behind the mask. This became a running joke on Tyler's Twitter, and one time one of Tyler's websites, Freetsy, was briefly renamed BFP Man, claiming that BFP Man had taken over the website. Gron's favourite drink. In The Dreadful Truth, Vincent tries to give Gron Coke after pouring it out of a Coke dispenser before he kills himself. Because of this, there have been jokes amongst the TRTF community that Gron's favourite drink is Coke. Vincent is gay. Some have theorized that Vincent in TRTF is gay and has a crush on Gron. It is implied that Vincent was very close with Gron and it is never mentioned that he had a partner, which has led some to believe that Vincent is in love with Gron. Some have also theorized that Gron is bisexual and also has a crush on Vincent, but is already married to someone else. TRTF Gmod. There are a few TRTF models and maps on Gmod. There's 2 maps, one is Fazbear Fantasyland made by Sunken Studios, and another is Fredbear's Family Diner made by Azizol. There is also TRTF player models of the TRTF free animatronics, human characters and torture animatronics, all ported by OS Snowy and Elijah McKendry. John Johnson. John Johnson is a name that many TRTF fans call the man who killed Linda in the hospital. He doesn't actually have a name and we don't know anything about him. Tyler faked his suicide. One of the many reasons why people don't like Tyler is because he faked his suicide in TRTF 4. At the end of the game it displays a message: "I'm sorry for everything. I did everything to make you guys happy. Now you're not sure. I will not suffer. If you think I have lost my way, maybe I should die. If you were here from the beginning, thank you." This has been interpreted as a suicide note left by Tyler. However though, this is actually false information. This is a reference to a TV show called Person of Interest from the episode YHWH, with it even playing Welcome to the Machine in the background. It wasn't a suicide note, it was just a reference to a TV show that Tyler liked. Charles minigames. I've gone through all the minigames in Find Me, but the Charles minigames definitely stick out for a few reasons. One of them is that it's the only time we actually see the outside world of TRTF, with the houses being wrecked and covered in blood. This has led some to believe that parts of TRTF take place during an apocalypse, even before the animatronic apocalypse has happened. There's also 2 minigames which don't make sense. One shows Charles seeing Gron dead inside Golden Lockjaw, and another shows Gron with Golden Lockjaw's head which kills him, something that isn't mentioned anywhere else. These minigames could be depicting nightmares that Charles had. Only Markiplier knows. Only Markiplier knows is a theory from late 2015. The theory was that Markiplier was told the full lore of FNAF by Scott Cawthon, however there is no solid evidence to back this up. When asked questions about the TRTF lore, Tyler would sometimes say only Markiplier knows. That was obviously just a joke since Markiplier likely never played TRTF. Kitty Fazcat Q&A. In 2018, Kitty Fazcat did a Q&A where she answered questions about TRTF. This was intended on being the last TRTF related thing that she would do before completely disassociating herself with it. The video has since been deleted and is now lost. Cancel teaser games. games. There was going to be a teaser game 8 and 9 for TRTF 5. One of them would have taken place in a bedroom, speculated to be at Carson's house. It was probably going to be another nightmare mode, but not much is known about it. It's unknown if this would have been teaser game 8 or 9. It's unknown what the other teaser game was, but it might have been Mad Mind. Tyler is a paedophile. There are rumours that have circulated in recent years that Tyler is a paedophile. However, there is no evidence to back this claim up. It's likely just a lie that one of Tyler's haters made up and got spread around to the point where some have actually believed it. Broken minigame in TRTF 2. In TRTF 2, there is a minigame where you play as Freddy. It takes place in an office. You're unable to leave the office and you can't do anything. The minigame won't ever end. It was thought that this was a bugged or unfinished minigame that you can't play properly in game. However, it was later found out this was actually the minigame where you follow the puppet as Freddy. You can spawn in one of 3 places in the location: the parts and service, a party room, or the office. If you spawn in the office, you'll not be able to leave the room due to a bug which will cause a wall to block the next screen. The animations were not rigged. None of the animations that came from the original models in TRTF 2 to 4 were rigged, meaning that the animations were essentially stop motion. This is because Tyler was new to modeling and didn't try to learn how to rig. Night 6 is beatable in TRTF 4. You aren't supposed to beat Night 6 in TRTF 4, as you'll get killed by Golden Lockjaw just before it turns 6 AM. However though, you can actually get to 6 AM on Night 6. If you run out of power when Golden Lockjaw is attacking you, the game will freeze and Welcome to the Machine will still be playing. Eventually you'll reach 6 AM. When the 6 AM chimes end, the game will crash. Insomniac. Insomniac, formerly known as Insomnia, was a horror game that Tyler was making in 2018 before Korea. There is almost no information on this game. All that we know is that it would have taken place in London in 1940. The game was cancelled very early on in development. Tortured Lockjaw's reused hand. Tortured Lockjaw's hand, of all parts, has been reused for other models. Frankbert's model in Frankbert actually uses Lockjaw's hand. What's crazier is that his hand has been used outside of TRTF. The Golden Spring animatronics in Fazbear's Return 5 also has Tortured Lockjaw's hand. TRTF 2 Remastered was a love story. According to Colin Miller, TRTF 2 Remastered was going to be a love story, which is very uncommon for a FNAF fan game. This is something that Colin told BitHell, who is remaking TRTF 2 Remastered. As of the time of recording this, very few know about this. Those who know have speculated that Corn of Cots and Wendy Hall would have been romantic partners in the game. DA Games TRTF song. According to Tyler in a thank you message from 2016, DA Games was making a TRTF song. Some have speculated that Left Behind was originally going to be a TRTF song, with it being a fitting song for the game. This was most likely completely made up though, as there's no other sources that mention a DA Games TRTF song. In fact, DA Games has never even acknowledged TRTF, so it's probably never even played any of the games. FNAF song references. There are a few references to FNAF songs in the TRTF series. It is well known amongst TRTF fans that Tyler was a fan of The Living Tombstone, with the The End music video. But there are other FNAF songs that have been referenced in TRTF. One teaser for TRTF 2 which shows a puppet says, "I am the guilty one behind," which is a lyric from The Puppet by Gato Paint. In the bad ending minigame with the Fredbear plushie, at one point the Fredbear plushie says, "I'm here for you to wipe your tears," which is a lyric from Tomorrow's Another Day by Stagged. One Endless Night at MLG's. One Endless Night at MLG's is a FNAF fan game series made by Toonstar. There were 11 games released from 2015 until 2018. There was a teaser for the second game posted on Toonstar's website. This featured the sprite of Vincent being stabbed in teaser game 6, which at the time hadn't been released yet, meaning that this was a leak. Vincent made animatronics legal. There is a theory that suggests that Vincent is the one who made animatronics legal after they were banned. This is because he had a high level of power and made his money from the animatronics. He also used them to hide his victims. There is just one glaring plot hole with his theory though. Vincent died before animatronics were made illegal. Fallen Angel. In a teaser for the upcoming Desolation, it mentions that an angel fell from heaven, which some have theorized to be Allison. This would explain his supernatural abilities like immortality in this timeline. This doesn't seem too far-fetched, as Korea's games including Desolation have a lot more supernatural elements to them. Tyler's laptop was stolen. In July 2016, Tyler tried to sell his laptop on eBay so that he could afford a trip to England to visit Kitty Fazcat. Supposedly the laptop that he sold had all the assets made for TRTF 5, but I don't know if that's true, as if you're going to sell a laptop, you'd probably delete everything first. The person who he sold the laptop to never gave him his money and he never recovered his laptop. Tyler and Kitty broke up the following month, so it was all for nothing anyway.